Brant County Council for February the 10th, 2026. Attendance has been taken, noting that Councillor Miller and just Councillor Miller online? So Councillor Miller's online, Councillor Pierce is on vacation, and he's going to try to get online a little bit later. Attendance has now been taken. Second thing on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and Councillor Coleman, you have that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather, we acknowledge that we meet on the lands and territory of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nations, Six Nations of the Grand River, and the traditional territory of the Adirondack. We remind ourselves that the County of Brant is situated on lands that are full of rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We recognize the significance of their contributions to the past, present, and future of this land. As a county, we have a shared responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work, and a commitment to the truth and reconciliation calls to action. We commit to continue learning, reflecting on our past, and working in allyship.
Thanks, Councillor Coleman. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda the way it sits, noting there's an addendum. Does anyone have anything they want to add to the agenda? Councillor Oakley.
Through Mr. Mayor, could I request that we move 10.1 and 10.2 up to after the adoption of the minutes? I think I recognize that there's quite a lot of people here for that, so it would at least allow most folks to clear out after we dealt with those applications sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll let the agenda show them that 10.1, 10.2 will be moved up so that you people can be heard earlier and you don't have to sit through this entire meeting, which has the possibility of going very long tonight. So we're going to do that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried? Councillor Kyle? You were seconding that? Or do you have something to add?
I had something else to add,
All right.
actually. One quick item under other business, please.
Under which, I'm sorry?
Other business.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir.
I have one item under other business.
Councillor Bell?
Did you want me to move it?
Does everyone have something they want to put on the agenda? Councillor Bell, you do? Councillor Chambers?
Mr. Mayor, shouldn't they say what the order of business is? Because actually, according to a procedural bylaw, we're not supposed to add anything to this particular meeting. So for the record, they should be identifying what they wish to add.
Or we could vote to just amend the bylaw that doesn't let them add anything. Councillor Bell, is yours relevant to something to do with planning?
It is relevant to a planning matter.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor McAlpine, do you have something to add?
I was just going to move it.
Oh, okay. You're moving it. Councillor Kyle's the seconder.
Councilor Bell.
I'm sorry?
Seconded by Councilor Bell.
Oh, okay. Anybody else have anything to, I can see this is going to be a dandy meeting. All those in favor? Thank you. The next thing is pecuniary interest. Does anyone have one that seems obvious? If we come across one that is more obvious, please let me be the first one to know. We had a delegation had registered, but they have canceled their delegation. So we have no other delegations. Adoption of the minutes from the last meeting, which is January the 13th. Councillor Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chambers that the County of Brant Council minutes of January 13th, 2026 be approved.
Are there any questions to the minutes of January the 13th? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried? Any business arising from those minutes you want to talk about? Seeing none, we'll go past that. Consent items, we don't have any to be approved. And consent items, we don't have any to be received. Number 9 is the first public hearing. So this is the first public hearing for tonight, so. I'm sorry. This is 348 and 354 Hardy Road. Lauren's going to speak to it. I am going to make a note that this is a public meeting now. We do have a couple of people that have registered to speak, but because it's a public meeting, everyone in the room has the opportunity to speak to or against this planning act or this proposal. But we're going to let Lauren speak first, and then we're going to open it up to the room as a public hearing.
Thank you. I'll be presenting zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1525 LG, submitted by GSP Group, agent on behalf of Stubby's Precast Concrete, applicant on behalf of 588922 Ontario Inc., and Stubby's Investment Corp., owners of lands located at 348354 Harley Road. Staff are recommending approval of this application. The subject lands are located north of Harley Road and south of 9th Concession Road, with a portion of the subject lands being within the New Durham settlement area. The subject lands are adjacent to the Stubby's Precast Concrete head office and manufacturing operations. The proposal seeks to expand the existing industrial campus onto a portion of the subject lands. The lands currently contain an agricultural use and 2 residential dwellings fronting along Harley Road. The portion of lands proposed to be developed for industrial expansion are an agricultural field. The subject lands have a frontage of 564 meters along Harley Road and 555 meters along 9th Concession Road. The lands are an approximate area of 84.48 hectares, and the surrounding land uses consist of residential and industrial to the west and agriculture to the northeast and south. The subject lands are designated as general employment, agriculture, and natural heritage system, and site-specific policy area, New Durham future development. The lands to be rezoned are within the New Durham settlement area. The subject lands are zoned as agriculture, special exception A1, and natural heritage. The special exception agricultural zoning permits 2 dwellings. The zoning bylaw amendment application proposes to rezone a portion of the subject lands from agriculture special exception to light industrial special exception, natural heritage, and natural heritage vegetation protection zone in order to bring the subject lands into conformity with the general employment official plan designation and to facilitate the expansion of the existing industrial facility. This table provides a breakdown of the existing uses on the adjacent property at 20 to 44 Muir Road South and the proposed uses. The applicants are proposing to limit the permitted light industrial M2 uses to only uses that are associated with the existing industrial facility. The parking, storing, and servicing of tractor trailers and concrete crushing have been added as accessory uses. This table provides a breakdown of the zone provisions within the light industrial zone, the existing zone provisions at 20 to 44 Muir Road South, and the proposed zone provisions. The applicants are proposing to bring the zone provisions into conformity with the M2 zoning, with the exception of the lot coverage for buildings, which is proposed to be 15% and will be calculated as the total percentage of the site-specific zoning. All setbacks are intended to be from the property lines, and works related to the employment use are to remain within the general employment designation and settlement area boundary. Key considerations include minimum distance separation. The agricultural impact assessment that was submitted in 2023 as part of the settlement area boundary expansion identified an MDS deficiency to the farm operation to the east of the subject lands. The deficiency will be addressed through the site-specific policy area ND1, acknowledging that the expansion of the livestock operation is not expected to have negative impacts in the existing industrial operation, and should an MDS reduction be needed to facilitate a future expansion, this would be supported by the county's official plan. The image displays the area proposed to be rezoned in blue, the MDS setback in red. No industrial uses are permitted within this setback, and through the site plan control process, it will be confirmed that only infrastructure is located within the setback. Natural heritage. The existing woodlands to the north are proposed development are currently zoned agricultural special exception, and only a portion of the woodlands are zoned natural heritage. This application is proposing to rezone the entirety of the woodlands to natural heritage. This area is highlighted in green. Recommendations of the environmental impact study are also being implemented through the zoning bylaw amendment. This will establish a 30-meter buffer to the woodlands to the north and a 30-meter buffer to the treed wetland to the southwest of the development. The buffers are proposed to be rezoned to Natural Heritage Vegetation Protection Zone in order to further protect the existing natural heritage features, and these areas are highlighted in blue in the image. Land use compatibility. So the development is considered a Class 3 industrial use. The minimum separation between Class 3 industrial uses and sensitive uses is 300 meters. The future expansion is proposed to be located greater than 300 meters from the existing residential uses. And the Natural Heritage Vegetation Protection Buffer to the south will also provide additional separation. Recommendations from the completed technical reports will be implemented through the site plan control process to ensure land use compatibility. Notice of this application was posted on the property on January 16th and mailed to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands on January 20th. Public comments of concern were received as part of the public circulation. The comments have been included for council's review. A summary of the comments include whether the use is considered light industrial, the proximity to the existing residential uses, loss of agricultural land, impact on water quality and quantity, impact on the environment, increased noise, dust, light pollution, and traffic from industrial expansion, whether the type B minimum distance separation would impact existing livestock facilities' ability to expand. A summary of the public comments with responses were included as part of the agenda package, and a concurrent site plan control application has been submitted for the lands within the general employment designation. Detailed technical review will be completed as part of this process, including zoning compliance, traffic, access, landscaping, grading, drainage, noise, dust, and lighting. Recommendations from the completed technical reports will be implemented through the site plan control process to implement mitigation measures and to ensure land use compatibility with the existing residential uses along Harley Road. For the reasons outlined in this report, it is my professional recommendation that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1525LG be approved. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I think before we go to questions, I'm going to let Brandon and Mike and the agent come up and speak. You have an actual presentation? Yeah. Spencer.
Sorry. So are you going to put the PowerPoint ahead, or do I? Right here? Okay, thank you.
Move the podium up a little bit for him, too.
Good evening, everyone. Name is Andy Stubby. So I'd like to just go over a bit of a presentation. Hopefully we can actually alleviate some concerns. So we'll start now, I guess. So basically, brief history on Stubby's. My dad started in 1982, the company. I joined my dad in 1989 as one of the first employees, the only employee, I guess. But we still are very much a family company. I have 4 son-in-laws, 2 nephews, and my son in the company at this point. We are a local company. I've lived actually in New Durham all my life, all 60 years of it. So now you know my age too, I guess. And we also are very local. We all live within minutes of the plant. All of us, most of us live in the county branch. There's a couple of traders here, one myself. I basically live just south of the town, just where the Oxford County, the farm itself is south of the town. But because of the weird way the Oxford County runs through Brant County, I'm in Oxford County for my house. So we started with a precast, we have ready mix divisions, cement divisions, terminal in Princeton, terminal in Port Weller, bringing in cement from overseas and also local. We have a pre-mix division, which we started, and also logistics as well with development. So the main purpose, I guess, of Harley, we call Harley, actually New Durham, is we do a lot of high-rise, mid-rise buildings, quite a few actually. It's one of our systems we developed is called Fast Track. We're trying to modularize the way you build units, best way to put it. It's almost like thinking Lego bricks. You take basically You can have so many Lego bricks, but you can't change the Lego bricks. So if you want a one-bedroom, you want a suite, or, sorry, you want a suite, you want a one-bedroom and den, we can put these bricks wherever you want them in your building, but you can't change the brick. That's the way it is. The bathroom looks like that, kitchen looks like that, and has been proven very successful in two respects, speed of construction, but also cost, and we'll get into that a little later. So last year, we approximately produced enough, we have enough units for like 5,000 homes, which is quite a few, of course, and that goes mostly into the rental units now, so that your low-income housing, which there is need for Ontario. So we're busy. In fact, we're booked. People want stuff, buildings, I call it stuff, of course, but they want it by August, and we can't deliver it to the end of the year. We have 925 employees working for us. Of course, all those employees are not in the Hardy location, about 80% are. So there's about 740 or so that basically come to the New Durham facility. So this is a bit of a mapping on where I'm gonna call generally the people live. Every dot is an employee. You'll see a fair number in Brantford, and around the vicinity, I mean, of the areas. We also have a heat map, which I haven't included, which shows you we have a lot of our employees are to the north and to the south of that as well. Just more of a point of reference where a lot of our employees do live. So, Stubby's community involvement. We do sponsor around the area, not just Brant County, but we have in Delhi, and that's Norfolk, and we have in Norwich and other spots, Tillsonburg, free skates regularly for the general public. Come in, it's free. We do sponsored swims. We do a lot of donated products, I mean. So that means basically if somebody's putting a swim pad up, or they need the house for the swim pad, generally we donate that to the community for the ready mix and other products that we do produce. We do a lot of school tours. The one picture you'll see there was where we did a lot of colleges and universities came down to see the product, destructive testing. That one there, we kind of loaded that piece of flooring till it failed. There's a lot of engineers involved, a lot of engineering students on that project, and we do that regularly. We also sponsor local charity tournaments. We do get a lot of requests for that. And of course, we do donate to the community. Usually we keep that kind of private because most of the time it's anonymous. But someone told me last week, this is not the time to be humble. So in 2025, we've donated $2.9 million to 82 charities in the past year, and that's on and on and on. So that basically, that's local charities, that is national and also international charities. I'm gonna let Brandon take over from the zoning application.
Thank you, Andy. I think, Lauren did a really good job of explaining this, but the application tonight is to rezone a portion of the land that is currently zoned agricultural, but has been previously designated for general employment uses. The map in front of you on the screen, I think a couple of important considerations are that the existing woodlot is to be protected and zoned to a natural heritage zone. The creek to the south as well is to be protected with the buffer area to that as well. And that the limits of the M2 zoning are really the existing agricultural piece in the middle of the parcel as I'll identify it. A lot of the questions, we've read all the comments, the public comments and staff comments throughout the process. A lot of the comments are related to the site plan approval application and, what does that look like? And the public hasn't been able to see that. The site plans are included in the staff reports tonight and they're available on the county's website. I think the next slide actually shows it a little bit better, but part of the process is we have to get through the zoning amendment first. Should that be approved, then the details of the site plan, they're known and they're well laid out and defined at this point, but that can't be finalized or approved until such point as the actual zoning's in place. A couple of considerations that are identified just on the plan that's on the screen is the site plan that will be further reviewed by staff following, should there be successful zoning approval. It's showing areas of buffers, any of the areas in green that are to be additional landscaping or berming around the property. It's showing the woodlot and the creek that are be protected, along with additional buffer areas around them. And then the new buildings on the property, along with the storage yard in the middle. So I would encourage, hopefully everyone from the public that's here tonight had a chance to see the staff report and the site plans, because while that process isn't a public process, the plans as they exist today are publicly available now, so hopefully everyone did get to see those. We did provide, as Lauren mentioned, sort of comprehensive responses to all the comments that we received in advance. And it's true, a lot of the comments really get ironed out at the time of the site plan approval. So recommendations from a noise study or a traffic study, things like that, that really hits the ground when the site plan is approved and identifies where things can be built and, you know, the setbacks that have to be applied and that type of thing on the physical plan. So I think it's, you know, we want to make it clear that we've heard the comments, the technical reports have been done, and a lot of it is, you know, gets implemented when the site plan is approved. Andy's got a few more slides, but certainly we're both here to answer any questions, and hopefully we can answer them as best as we can.
So there's a proposed berm as well. That's, if you kind of look from the Harley Road, I've got a pointer here, but you can see on the left of that drawing, that's kind of the road level there. We propose to put a berm before, on the agricultural land there, I guess agricultural zone, before it dips down into the valley. And that's a line of sight that you see on the, with the berm and the trees, about 6 meter tall trees. The trees you see above it is an existing berm that we actually have in Hickson around one of our ready mix plants. That's generally what it would look like. And basically the line of sight gets taken away a little bit, or all the way from the lower part of the building, which is the majority. But there's a section of it where it's higher, where the material all is stored indoors, the gravel and sand as it comes up, goes up into silos, I call them silos, big bins actually, ready to go down to the mixers. That's quite a bit taller, of course, but the majority of the building is the lower, darker shaded portion to your, on the bottom there, on your right-hand side. So the proposed property plans, I think one of the comments I'd like to kind of address is why keep expanding there? And like, don't you guys do anything elsewhere? Why wouldn't you go somewhere else? And I have to say, well, actually, we do go elsewhere. Just for a point of reference for the council, we have a manufacturing plant, a precast manufacturing plant in Centralia, which is just south of Exeter. We have some support functions manufacturing in Norwich. We also just opened a new plant in Woodstock on Batulo Ave. So that is, we're trying to, if it doesn't kind of directly work with the precast buildings, the floors, the walls, we are trying to put those elsewhere. We also have a few ready mix plants in different locations. And I'd just like to explain why, I guess. So the structural precast it's an intricate, complicated product. Every piece has its own drawing. Every piece has its own engineer stamp on it. So it's basically, it's almost worse than building a car, because you can have X number of cars, different colors, but we have very little of the same going down through the lines. That's the first thing. The second thing is we ship walls and floors or wet cast products together to make the floor. So if we have two different manufacturing facilities, I have to send a truck to one or to the other, or sometimes both, to pick up a product, a load, to go to the site. And that basically, the schedule changes because weather changes, conditions change. When we shut down, we can't raise in the wind. So it makes it very difficult to separate, I guess, the floors from the walls, the best way to put it. It also is, what was I had one other thing here, come on. If we don't keep it together, it's very difficult to produce, design, ship, and erect without basically, as I mentioned, with the multiple factors working on these jobs, and we're not doing one job, we're building, on average, we're building 9 to 13 buildings simultaneously. So there's a lot of moving parts happening, but most importantly is we have the engineers, when things change, something happens, the engineers have to be there to make sure that things are right before it goes to site. So that's mostly why we're doing what we're doing there. So another point I would like to mention, and also that what makes this product so successful, I mentioned it before, we do, with our space, the way we can combine the products together, basically it makes it a very cost-effective system for low-income housing and things like that. In fact, we do have people from North America coming steady to try and figure out, or help figure out why we're doing what we're doing. We've had them from Europe, and most recently we had some interest, just people trying to figure it out from Australia and New Zealand. So that is kind of, it's key that we keep the things together. The proposed hollow core plant is the bigger building that you've seen on that site plan. It's proposed just to shortly or slightly under 200,000 square feet. And it will be producing 8-foot wide hollow core, not 4 foot wide. It's 10 foot, 8, I keep saying 10. It's 8-foot wide hollow core. It's the first time this would be done in actually Canada. So there's a reason for that to get more efficient. I try to explain it a little bit later, but also it's unique. It'll be quite automated, but it still will probably take about 60 to 70 employees there. That's who we'll be hiring, how many. The proposed building on the other side, the more north of the site plan, that is for 150,000 square feet. That's for about 30 people there. And what that is going to be for automated rebar manufacturing. So as the building codes change, the cages, I call it cages, but the rebar reinforcing in these panels, it's very specific, but it's very intricate. Really, it's hard to explain, but you almost got to put a column on both sides of the panel every time. It's a lot more labor intensive, so we're trying to automate that as much as possible for a support building for both plants and also support for some steel work. So it's not a concrete crushing facility, which I've seen a comment. It is enclosed, obviously, but it's more for rebar fabrication, that plant there. That building there, I mean.
Mr. Stubb, I'm going to stop you here for a minute. You've gone a little bit over time, so I'm going to ask council to give me permission to let you speak longer, because I believe it is an education session as much as a presentation. Looking for a motion, Councillor Howes and Councillor Oakley. All those in favor?
I do apologize.
No,
Sorry.
no, it's great. We're learning
Okay,
a lot.
so there's some neighbor concerns. I'd like to speed this up a little if I can, I guess. The first one is traffic. We just try to itemize the concerns as best we could, and itemize, combine them, I guess. So the first one's traffic. Now, we have to admit, all the roads in the counties have gotten busier, not just New Durham, to be fair, but that's still traffic going east of the village. We kind of did a mapping on that. About 10% of our employees will go directly to the east of the village on average. That's the employees. Ready Mix does go to the east when we basically have jobs in Harley and south of Harley, roughly. Otherwise, they'll go down to Scotland or the North Scotland Road, or up the 8th, up into the 403 there. Truck traffic generally will not be going down that road for the new plant. The truck traffic you see coming through New Durham is generally to service plant 1, because that's the entrance, the main entrance for there is from that road there. So I have to also say, we are proposing with the council, Mike, my son-in-law has been working with putting some key speed cameras there, or to slow them down, typically like Harley, I guess, to remind our employees and trucks. And I really have to say, it's not only our employees, our trucks are going to New Durham. It is a route from Norwich up into Brantford as well. So we're proposing to do that. I also like to say that basically the traffic is 5 days a week. We do very little on Saturday. Skeleton crew, very little. A lot of washing going on I like to make vehicles clean, so we have wash crews and stuff like that, but very little production goes on Saturdays. And then I think most of you neighbors know, absolutely nothing gets done on Sunday. So 5 days a week. Next thing, water usage. So, yeah, you're allowed to use 50,000, it's provincial standard, you're allowed to use 50,000 water liters a day per property. That's just the thing. I mean, if you're a farmer or whoever it is, it's just what it is. If, or more than that, you need a permit. So, first of all, I'd like to say, the people, the well drillers we've been talking to, but they believe there's 2 different aquifers there. Plant 1, New Durham, has sulfur, whereas north of that, there is no sulfur, actually none. So, but that, they believe it might be 2 different aquifers. I can't prove that, I just want to say it. That's not really pertinent, but you can see what I'm saying there. So I think I'd really like to educate myself a little bit, but understand water and concrete. So I'm just going to give you some typicals here. So a typical meter of concrete is 2,400 kilo. So generally, you're about 300 kilo. I'm easy figuring, it's touch more, touch less. I mean like 190, 310, 315 max. You're at, so 300 kilo of cement. And then you come up with 100 kilo of stone, 100 kilo, or sorry, 1,000 kilo of stone, and 1,000 kilo of sand, roughly. Because you're basically, usually it's 1050 sand and 1050, as in 1,050 and 1,050 stone and sand. Now, to hydrate cement, you need 0.27, which means basically 27% weight. So you need 27% water to the 300 kilo of your cement. So that's how, so that's minimum. That's the hydrate. We shoot for 3.7, 3.3. I'm going to say 40%. 40% water per weight of cement. So 40% water of 300 kilo, and you guys can Google this, the neighbors, this is just the way it is. So 40% water on 300 kilo is basically 120 kilo of water per mix per meter, which, or 120 liters. I mean, a liter of water is a kilo. But, so that's the first thing. The second thing is we do wash our sand and gravel before it comes to the plant. We buy it washed or wash it yourself. And why that is, because you need sand and gravel that's clean so that your stone, the dirt on the stone does not actually get away from adhering to the cement powder. And Google this. The typical weight of washed sand is 10 to 15%. Sorry, typical moisture in your sand is 10 to 15% water coming into the plants. That's a bit high, I think. We're generally running around 7 or 8, so I'm going to say 8 right now. So 8% of 1,000 kilo is 80 liters, or 80 kilo. And then stone is generally 2 to 9%. I'm going to say 2, so that's 20 liters of water that is in the stone before it has to be dry weight for your yield. And that comes automatically into the mix. So generally we have 100 liters of water, 80 from the sand, 20 from the stone, into your mix. So basically it leaves 20 liters coming from the ground. So 20 liters, and if I'm allowed to go up to 50,000, that's like 2,500 mixes, which we don't quite produce, obviously. That's 13,700 pounds. That'd be 182 trucks a day if I was maxed out, which we don't do. That's 810 loads out of one plant. We do not produce that in all the Stubby's facilities. It's probably 20% of that, 27%. So really, another way to look at it in farmer terms is a dairy farm with 200 to 250 cattle will take more water than we will from that property. It's just the way it is. Google it, dairy cow takes 100 to 150 liters a day. So I just want to say right now we're well below what we're allowed to take out. We are not depleting the water table. That's that point. And please ask questions, that's fine too. Oh, wrong way. So the berm, we discussed the berm, proposed berm there. And I think it's again, you'll see the look of it on the lower right-hand side there. Dust control. So dust control, usually spring is our trying time for dust on average. And basically, the frost is coming out of the ground, we can't get the oil on it, it's a biodegradable oil, we can't get it on until it dries up and we get the main traffic runs leveled up, so we can actually, put dust control down. And generally, I have my son standing in the back, I see, he's on the east side of the works there, he gets all the dust, because for some reason, the west side, because we get a lot of east winds in the springtime. Generally, that's how it works. So we also are, actively hard servicing a lot of the main runways, which means like concrete, so that we can basically control some of the pounding that go into and the dust that actually basically is generated. And I also like to say that that is road dust, it is not silica dust. We don't throw cement powder on the ground. And actually, if you see some dust, it's actually just dust from farmer going down the field, but this is gravel dust, a gravel road, that's what you're gonna see. You won't see silica dust, you see gravel dust, as a gravel road that's not calcium. That being said, last year was a dry year. We had some difficulty getting our biodegradable oil, and it was not a good year. Full disclosure, we have to work better on it, because that was not a good year last year. Dry, and we had a lot of wind, but we had an issue with, I wouldn't say issue, but I think generally there's not that much dust coming from the yard itself. The trees, we like to put some more trees on the existing berms, which would be along Muir Line. Also do a little work on the north of the Muir Line, north part of it, past the office, to get trees there as well. The last one I'd like to talk about is concrete crushing. Yeah, when you basically extrude a piece of hollow core, which is flooring, it's extruded, which means it's very dry, you start the extruder, you stop the extruder, that piece is garbage. It's not to the right form, it's out of spec, it's just, we cut that off, that goes to our crushing pile, or our pile that we have to crush. We also we rip the product at 4 feet wide. If I need a 3-foot piece, I make a 3-foot piece, I rip it, like a piece of plywood, you rip it off, that piece is actually garbage. So that has to go to the recycling. We do think the 8-foot wide is gonna reduce that, and very simply, if I wanna put a 3-foot hole in a floor, mechanical shaft, I got a 4-foot piece, 4-foot piece, I need a hole here 3 feet, which means I need a rip 3-footer here, rip 3-footer here, a piece of, we call them hangers, to make that 3-foot piece, whereas when I got a wider piece of hollow core, I'm able to punch that hole right into the hollow core, so I don't have to have all that waste as well. So less waste, less scrap, less crushing. So we also, that's about it, I guess, with that. We also, with increased space, we will only be crushing in the wintertime for about 3 weeks, which we find is much better for dust generation. And we are also working with ECA approval. We do not think, they don't think it's gonna be a problem to get, we have an ECA on all the property. I kind of thought, to be honest with you, that crushing was included. It's not, but we're gonna upgrade the plan for that. They do not see an issue with it. But that being said, I don't know the final details of that as well. It's gonna be 3 weeks in the winter, which is a better time for us to do it. We can actually save it up and do it once instead of on and on with less space that we have. So I think that covers that part. Pause, I'm almost done. We do have manufacturing jobs coming, be 100 total. Construction jobs, there's obviously building these plants. I'd like to mention indirect jobs. Yeah, when the product has to be quality inspected. Those are extra, of course. Got to be quality inspected, it's got to be put to the yard, loaded on the trucks, truck to site, which we have all employees for, erected. So every job we have is probably 1-on-1, 1-on-2. I know that the stats say more than that, but I'm just gonna say that for now. Like I'm talking about indirect jobs in the county for all that. We do a lot of housing. There is a need for housing, for rental housing, and we do believe it is a need, and we have a lot of people asking us, to be honest with you. And we found out that a fast track total precast is one of the only systems that seems to work for the square foot cost and the speed of it. What I mean by that is basically the pro forma, when they actually go to the banks to get their money, the other systems are too high, and as in cost. And this seems to be coming in where it works. And also, we are at capacity, and that is basically people asking for product that I cannot deliver. So I'll just leave it with that. one last thing I'd like to say is, with the neighbors, we did approach a bunch of neighbors that were directly, we thought, affected, and at first, when we brought this out, it was kind of I wasn't, not happy to see it, but they really didn't see a whole lot of issue. Glad we're growing. That has changed. I do think we should have had a more informal public meeting. But that being said, I do live not that far away. Everybody knows where I live. I've been a resident for 60 years there. And I haven't had nobody call me personally or approach me personally on any concerns here at all. And also, I like to quickly say it, is the additional traffic. I know it's an irritant, as in for the people, but I see it as a person. I know all my employees' names. I know them all. So when you see a car going past, I see a Nathan that basically is part of our advanced building technology program, who's getting a diploma. I'm paying him for college. I'm paying his college. We work with George Brown. He's paid to go to school, and then basically he's actually, instead of student loans, he actually has something in the bank. And we have a college program running, or a program running at Stubby's. And that's not just, you can be a site super, you can be a VC modeler, that type of thing. Yeah, I see Anna's, I see Lisa's. And you have to, I know all the people, I really do. I'm gonna say one last thing is, I see guys come up to me, shake my hand, so happy they bought their first house. They had one last week and one the week before. And they're so happy, Daddy didn't help them, contrary to the media saying it. These boys, they come up to me so happy they're actually able to afford their own home. And then I said, well, yeah, congratulations. This Andy, it wasn't because of me as much as you. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're deferred profit sharing, your benefit rollover. So if you don't use your benefits up, you don't lose them. We throw it into your investment fund. And your financial courses that you guys teach us, seminars, help me save. Thank you. He said, one thing I don't have to worry about. He said that I always have a job. I said, yeah, I'm thinking back in my mind that I have to worry about that part of it though, because these kids need income too. That's all I'm going to say. Any more questions?
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for council for letting him go over, because it really was an information session, and I thank you for what you do and how you do it. I've watched your buildings go up all over the place. I can spot your buildings a mile away, and I know that you're coming in under budget, and all of that's good, and we're here for a different reason though right now tonight. We have a couple of people that have taken the time to register before I open it up to council. Bob Van Wyck, are you here? Bob, yeah, you want to come up and speak? Yeah. So we have two that have taken the time to register. After that, we're going to open it up to council, and we're going to open it up to the floor. Anybody that wants to speak to or against this application will have a chance to come up to the podium. So if you can state your name for me, please, and your address, and then you have 10 minutes.
Sorry for the confusion there, Mr. Mayor. I thought we were going to go with the councilors first.
We're going to go to you first.
Okay. My name is Bob, last name Van Wyk, VANWYK, a little bit of a space in there. And I live at 362 Harley Road, which is on the east side of, as I love to say, metropolitan New Durham. So good evening, Mr. Mayor and the councilors of Brant County. My wife Diane and I live on the east side of New Durham at 362 Harley Road. That place is adjacent to the address associated with the zoning application known as ZBA 15-25-LG for 348 to 354 Harley Road. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak before you with regards to this specific rezoning application. I want to begin by reiterating what I said back on October the 14th when I first had the opportunity to speak before council regarding this rezoning application, and that is, I fully respect the right of Stubby's Precast to grow their business. Further to that opening statement from back on the 14th of October, I want to say to you tonight that I applaud the growth that Stubby's have realized through their hard work, determination, and product innovation. They truly are an admirable business success that started from humble beginnings here in New Durham. I, along with others, sent emails containing questions and comments. I did indeed receive a response to all of them. So for that, thank you. The process of following this zoning application through to tonight has been a journey of learning, researching, reflection, writing, much writing, and discussions that has brought us together as neighbors who, despite different living locations within and outside of New Durham, brought differing perspectives, concerns, and goals for our neighborhood. Despite those differences, we as residents do indeed want the best for our community of New Durham. I do believe that through the answers that I received, for the questions that I asked, the responses to the concerns that I raised, and the discussions that I have had with my ward councilors, Mr. Chambers and Mr. Miller, and the Stubbies representatives, both of whom are here tonight, that there is a positive path forward for all of us. I'm looking forward to the public meeting that Andy mentioned, that time we ran out of to have one, that we can learn more of how we're going to work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris and Mark, you want to come up? Is Chris not here? Oh, there he is. Yeah. I know. Just your names and your addresses, please.
Mark Eddy, 47 Kitchen School Road.
And Chris Stewart, 99 Second Concession Road, Princeton.
Thank you.
We're with the Brant County Federation of Agriculture, and anytime there's a loss of farmland, we're concerned. So we just brought some comments forward. And I have to admit, I have some Stubbies products at home, and they're awesome.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the Brant County Federation of Agriculture, we'd like to speak against the proposed ZBA 1525 LG, the application to rezone lands of agriculture. The Brant County Federation of Agriculture, the BCFA, is one of 51 counties and regional federations supported by the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. The BCFA represents the voice of agriculture in the local community on local agricultural issues and advocates on behalf of 669 Brant County farm families that maintain nearly 150,000 acres of farmland. We are dedicated to ensuring that the agriculture and food sector and rural communities are considered and consulted with for any new or changing legislations, plans, or bylaws that would impact the sustainability and the growth of our farm businesses. The BCFA appreciates this opportunity to provide input to the public consultation on the proposed being applications to rezone lands from agriculture to agricultural employment, special exemption AE 19 to light industrial, special exception M242. The subject lands are identified as within the general employment land use designation with the official plan, but not within a built-up area. Ontario's municipalities must prioritize the protection of farmland, which is as fragile as it is critical to our province. The Federation notes that a particular section of the official plan that is relevant to the proposed at hand, where the interface of agricultural use and non-agricultural uses results in opportunities for potential conflict, land use compatibility will be achieved by avoidance. Where avoidance is not possible, minimizing and mitigating adverse impacts on the agricultural system shall be required in accordance with the recommendations on an agricultural impact assessment or similar study to the satisfaction of the County of Brant. Section 213. The BCFA is not aware of an agricultural impact assessment that accompanies and supports the application and is concerned to the core concepts of AIA will not be met, being avoidance, minimization and mitigation of negative impacts on the agricultural system. Two critical questions are therefore, Has Stubby's precast demonstrated that the subject lands are the only suitable location for their industrial use? Will the anticipated unavoidable negative impacts of the industrial use be minimized and mitigated? The AIA is required to satisfy one of the most important statutory tests for planning decisions. Consistency with the Provincial Planning Statement, PPS of 2024, Policy 4352 of the PPS requires an agricultural impact assessment or equivalent analysis to address the impacts of any new or expanding non-agricultural use on the agricultural system, which includes both the agri-food network of farm businesses, agricultural supported industries and infrastructure, and the agricultural land base itself. Affecting the agri-food network, the creation of industrial jobs in rural places requires the commensurate creation of parking spots, offices, and workspace, and added commuter cars and vocational trucks on Brant County's road network. Modern farming equipment has scaled with agricultural output and is slow, large, and awkwardly shaped, less than nimble, and may have less than an ideal driver's visibility. Farmers are obligated to move equipment from field to field in order to complete agricultural operations. Introduction further competition for road space by permitting rural and industrial uses will put both farmers and commuters at risk where commuters and farm equipment meet on roads. Another issue is water management and other infrastructure. Should septic systems be required, this affects the site's capacity to manage wastewater effluent. More pressing is the concern of surface water runoff. Stubby's precast must also demonstrate that the property will adequately absorb rainwater and snowmelt, as large land uses, particularly where soil compaction and other activities have taken place, can alter the drainage characteristics of the area. Further disturbances to the area, such as dust, noise, and vibrations associated with industrial use, may interfere with rural lifestyle and agricultural operations. The BCFA is aware that farms are in the vicinity of the subject lands, including a dairy farming operation. Contaminants from herbicides and other chemicals may bioaccumulate in dairy products. Stubby's precast must demonstrate that their operation is compatible with existing agricultural uses in the area and will not put their businesses at risk. For clarity, the BCFA is not opposed to industrial use where they are appropriate, but it does not support the creation of non-agricultural industrial uses that compete with established farms and agricultural operations, or with the agricultural system, including prime agricultural areas. It is normal and appropriate for municipalities to redirect land use to more suitable locations such as existing brownfields and gray fields. The BCFA would like to close by stating our appreciation for the opportunity to provide our feedback and perspectives on the application to rezone land from agricultural to light industrial.
Okay, thank you, guys. There's going to be questions. I'm going to give it back to council for questions. Let's get a motion first to get it on the floor so we can talk about it. Councillor Coleman and Councillor Kyle. Questions for the delegation or for anyone who has concerns before we open the floor up for other people to speak, knowing that this is in front of us for approval. Councillor Bell, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a question for staff. I think I heard from Andy Stubby that Stubby's business does not reach the limit of its 50,000 litres per day capacity for taking water. Do we as county have any evidence that wells drying up in the area are a consequence of the activity in the Stubby's area, and will it get worse with an expansion?
Through the chair. So it's correct. They don't need a permit if they're taking less than 50,000 liters per day. They did also submit a hydrogeological report as part of the complete application. So this would also review the quality and quantity of the water.
So Lauren, help me. Are you saying there isn't a problem?
Through the chair, I don't believe that there would be an issue. If there was, then the hydrogeological would be demonstrating that the quantity that they're taking would be a problem.
Because there are quite a number of references to concerns about water. And we are saying as staff, we believe that this activity and the expansion of this activity is not going to result in any implications to the aquifer and therefore drying up of wells of the neighbouring residents. Are we saying that?
Yes, through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Second question related to concrete crushing. And again, there's quite a number of concerns raised by residents. We, at one point, I think on page 128 of the report, say that concrete crushing is already agreed as part of the existing zoning. And when I looked at the existing zoning, it doesn't say that.
Through the chair, so concrete crushing was added as an additional use, accessory to the primary use. Through discussions with Stubbies, they advise that this is an existing use on the property. However, we do not have it currently listed within the permitted uses.
So it's not a permitted use today on the property, and yet it's being done.
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Miller, you're next.
Mr. Mayor. A couple concerns with the Brant County Federation of Agriculture, but I'll take it up at the dinner coming up because I don't know if they had given input at the official plan when this land was originally designated employment. A couple questions for Lauren, and then maybe a couple questions for the applicant, Mr. Mayor. And just one comment for Lauren. I really appreciate the summary of concerns. I've never seen that in a planning application, but I thought you did a very nice job of summarizing. The site plan itself, when can we expect to see that completed?
Through the chair, so the site plan, it has been submitted and it has gone through the first submission. There are revisions that are required, so they will have to be addressed through future submissions. So I unfortunately don't have a timeline for us when that could be completed at this time.
Okay, so one of the things you talk about in the site plan control, I would hope, because I haven't seen it. You talked about lighting. It's going to be night-friendly lighting for the exterior. There was an email written, a letter written. I thought that was a good idea, but I don't know if it made its way into the site plan. Maybe you can confirm yes or no about curtains inside the structure, or is that something that we're allowed to incorporate into the site plan?
So through the chair, we wouldn't be able to enforce that through the site plan. It's generally like we're able to deal with items that are on the site itself. We are also able to discuss items such as landscaping that could be used to also mitigate impact from any proposed lighting from the building.
Okay, and as pointed out, if they're deciduous, they're only there for 2.5 seasons, so I'll leave that alone. One of the concerns I've had I've tried to explain this, but maybe you can do it in a public forum, Lauren, is some people are saying Stubbies is expanding and then they're just going to expand again. Can you talk about the ease or the difficulty with which it would be for them to expand beyond this point?
Through the chair, so to get to this point that they are now, they did have to submit a settlement area boundary expansion and redesignate the lands to general employment. We've identified that if they wanted to expand in the future, there is going to be land use compatibility issues, and there would also be setback issues because of the existing livestock facilities.
So it'd be a lot more difficult, I think, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a couple questions of the applicant, is that all right?
Yep. Do you want them to come back? Do you want them to
okay.
come back up to the podium?
Yes.
Okay, you're coming. Whenever you're ready, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First question is to Andy and Brandon. First question is about dust. You talked about suppressing dust from the trucks running over the ground. Any typical dust we'd see on any gravel road. Can you just, I know you guys spend some money on trying to suppress that. Can you just elaborate a little bit more? Because I think you guys spend a lot more than people realize.
Yeah, well, so the dust control bill is hundreds of thousands a year.
Yeah.
But some years it works better, I wouldn't say works better than others, but it's more of the time of application that we don't, it's not like we don't do it, we do. That's, I guess, if you look for the amount, what can I say, that's the amount.
Okay, so you're actively doing it. It's not an afterthought,
No.
I think. So, and I thought that was a good thing. I was glad to hear that. But then the second thing is, which a lot of people are concerned about, is the dust from crushing the concrete itself. And I was wondering, maybe, Andy, if you could talk about some of the lessons you guys have learned about how it's, how you can learn to maybe suppress that dust a little bit better.
Well, we tried, because we ran short of space last year, we tried to do it in the summertime, or let's say, yeah, the summer was, or fall, whatever it was. And that's why we got a touch bigger pile now to get through as we speak. So we find with the wintertime, with the snow, the moisture, there is virtually no dusting. And we've been doing it, and you really don't see it, actually. You don't even know what's going happening. So we find definitely the wintertime is best for us to do that, get rid of it. So when I talk about crushing, it's not like we throw this product away, it's recycling.
Okay. No, and I understand that, and I think we're all for that. We don't want to see it take up the landfills, but I think what I've learned is that you do a better job of keeping the dust down if you're doing it in the wintertime, simply because, well, it helps if it's moist, and I think you said that will be the plan. Last question then, maybe, Andy, and I wanted to ask, some people, if a resident of Harley has a concern with, I don't know, one of the truck drivers is driving really fast constantly through New Durham, or they're concerned about the dust, or like what happened before, one of the workers was kind of walking through New Durham and trespassing on people's properties. What would a resident do? What would you suggest they do?
Well, they know where I live. Like, I'm generally either at the office or in the plants or at home. Generally during the school year, my wife insists she drives that school bus, so I have very few days off then. So please call the office, and it will come to me, the complaint, or visit me. I'm generally there.
So, or could we call Mike Gore as well?
Well, he's a troublemaker, my son-in-law. No, you can, of course you can call him, yes.
Okay, so I think what you're saying, Andy, then if there is a problem, pick up the phone and give you a call, right?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to staff, just a quick question. These lands were added during the municipal comprehensive review for the new official plan. Can you just remind me when exactly, that was 2021, early 2022, past 5 years?
Through the chair, so that was in 2023.
2023, okay, thank you.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering if I could ask a question through you to the planning, chief planning official. A lot has been talked about the site plan applications, and it can be very, very confusing. So I'm wondering if you could just, in ways that I can understand it, talk about the site plan process. In other words, the role of council, the role of staff, the role of the applicant, whether it's appealable, who approves it, that kind of stuff?
Sure. Through the mayor to Councillor Chambers. Site plan approval is a delegated under the Planning Act. Sorry, that's so loud. Under the Planning Act to staff. So it is a staff directed, the staff run process. It is not public. So under the Planning Act, it is not open to the public. It is not directed to council, and council does not give input, so it does not come in front of council. So it implements the zoning. So essentially it takes the zoning and it ensures that the buildings meet all the required setbacks, height regulations but also looks at other elements. So we're also looking under the Planning Act, we look at where the parking is provided, where loading spaces are provided. Are they providing the correct amount, for example? Does the site operate properly? We look at pedestrian flows within the site for site safety. We look at site lighting, so there's a lighting plan that's provided to us, a photometrics plan that's reviewed and approved by staff. We circulate this also to various public agencies, so not only is it planning staff, our development engineering staff, Six Nations, Mississaugas, et cetera, all these different, and some other external agencies all review and give input to the process. So they're all giving feedback on anything that is taking place. So with the protection of natural heritage, there's comments and reviews that assure that it's implemented properly. Grading and drainage is implemented, so there's grading and drainage plans. With that is stormwater management. So there's a stormwater management report that would come to us that would be tied to a hydrogeological study. So there'd be information there about water balancing and making sure water is addressed on site and how it's being handled and where it's outletting to. So there's various reports along those lines that are all reviewed, and they're very technical reports, so that's why they're done in-house. They're done with other experts reviewing and peer checking the work submitted by the applicant. So the applicant submits all these reports and plans, staff and agencies review, there's comments back, it goes back and forth, and then that's implemented finally with a plan that is signed. And there's an agreement registered on title that binds them to that plan and how they operate within that plan. So in this case, there'd be some examples where we'd have some elements of dust control that would be tied into the site plan agreement of how they would manage dust. There'd be items around the crushing and how that would operate, would also have clauses within the site plan agreement, but would be tied to studies they provided to us with the ECA. So all that gets tied into a document that binds the landowner today and any future landowner, if they were to sell, to that agreement and in perpetuity unless they come in and revise it. So all that's tied together. One thing is clear though, we are not allowed to, under the Planning Act, control building code items. So anything building structure is building code, and the design of the building is all building code. We can look at the exterior in terms of lighting and height, setbacks, but not the building itself.
And just a follow-up question perhaps to Andy, to summarize, and we all recognize that the site plan is the mechanism that tries to alleviate a lot of the concerns of the ratepayers. And that site plan process largely occurs between staff and the applicant. And that doesn't give a lot of reassurance to members of council, for example, that don't play a role in the site plan process. And it also doesn't give a lot of comfort to the residents that they're told this is all going to solve their problems, but they don't have the opportunity to see what's going on because it happens between staff and the applicant. So now my question to Andy is, you had mentioned in your presentation that the site plan application has been submitted and we have copies that you need a magnifying glass to see. You also have a lot of wordage and that we don't have. So my question to you, Andy, is recognizing the concerns of the ratepayers and the concerns of the council, you had mentioned that perhaps you could have some kind of a public meeting or a meeting process or an information providing process about the site plan to the members of the community of New Durham and surrounding area. Can you commit to doing that prior to the agreement going back and forth so the ratepayers and the community members have some feel that they understand the process and they can take part in the process and have input into the process, and that might make the end result, whatever it may be, more palatable to members of the community if they feel they can be part of that and have influence over that? Because right now, I don't know how they're feeling, but I think council is being excluded, and in 5 minutes, the importance of the site plan is so important to this project to help the concerns of the neighbors that looking at it for 10 minutes isn't going to do the trick, I don't think. So Can you commit to that, recognizing that it may take time and recognizing that we're on a clock in terms of appeals, of decision-making and that kind of stuff? So I'll let you answer the question now.
Well, to be fair, I'm not sure of the whole process myself, start to finish. So for me to basically say, like, I would definitely, one would assume, and I don't know enough what I'm talking about, but one would assume the county's got to be happy before I can present it to the residents, or else because otherwise you're fishing two different ends here, because what they want. So if the county was happy with the site plan, I have no problem presenting it to the neighbors for input.
Councillor Chambers.
So just, if the staff and Stubbies are working on the site plan, and can that be presented to the people for input prior to any finalization? So they have at least some input, they may not agree with it, or they may be able to have influence over that? Is that possible?
Through the chair to Councillor Chambers. So from a planning staff perspective, we cannot require that. That's up to the applicant if they wish to go to the neighbors and advise them. But under our process, no, the public is not able to give direction and change a site plan. It is not a public document at that point, so no, it is not available to the public, so we can't release that. It would be up to the applicant if they wish to open that up, their choice.
Excuse me, if I might jump in as well. Certainly, we've been taking notes. We were at the public meeting in October. There's limited things that can be done, but there are improvements, or there are comments that can be taken into consideration on the site plan. So things like the berm and additional landscaping, those are the types of things that can really be addressed through a site plan process. The comment about the upper story windows or the glazing in the new plants. Andy and I spoke about that earlier, and that's something that's a good comment. Don't have an answer to that yet, and it's not something that's typically, the site plan doesn't control that, the zoning bylaw doesn't control that. But it's a comment that's been heard and will be considered in our next submission of the site plan. So I think county staff has sort of the responsibility of hearing the comments from the public and then relaying them to us to address through the site plan process. So I wouldn't want to say that having a neighborhood meeting is going to magically change the site. There's certain, the building's got to be so big, the loading area's got to be so big. You know, the technical reports have been done saying, you know, where stormwater management has to go and how big those areas have to be. But that's not to say we're not listening, and we've certainly have heard the comments. Andy talked about, you know, all the things that Stubbies does in the community. So trying to be a good neighbor is something that we've heard loud and clear, and hopefully staff and us through the site plan resubmission can do our best to address these comments to the extent possible.
If I could interject again, sorry, to Councilor Chambers. As much as it is a staff applicant process that is not open to the public, staff make every effort to make sure sites operate well and in the best interest of the county, taking into account what we've heard in applications and in processes and what we're heard from, as well as that's what we require certain technical studies, such as noise, dust, and odor compatibility studies. And those will demonstrate to us what is needed as a bare minimum to achieve appropriate noise, dust, and odor, or whatever else. So we look at those, and then we look at ways to make sure we can potentially even improve upon those. So even though it's a technical thing and the public and council's not involved, we make every effort as staff to make sure it is done in the best interests of everyone, and it does as well as we can. So it's not that we don't hear the public. It's not we're going to push the public aside at all. That is not what we would do as a staff. We would make every effort to make sure these issues are addressed. So, and I think that's the clarity we want to hear. Just beware to the public tonight and for council as we go through these as best we can to find the best solution to move forward to ensure that we get a good site in operation in perpetuity.
And I'll just conclude by saying it would make me feel a lot better voting in favor of an application if I knew that the community knew a little bit more about what was being done to protect their concerns And lacking that protection, it's very, very difficult to support the zoning application. There's a trust factor there, and I know once this meeting, public hearing is over, then we go out the doors and we cross our fingers at the end of the day, if it's approved, that the concerns would be met. And my last question to Andy, if I might, in terms of compatibility. Usually a village or a hamlet doesn't have to exist beside what I'll call a very, very large industrial operation. And there's natural conflicts in land, in neighbor-to-neighbor uses, along with agriculture. The people worry about the hamlet, but we heard from the Federation of Agriculture, there's concern in the agriculture community too, just because there's nobody lives there, it's a farming area as well. So in terms of compatibility with industrial, mixed with residential in the hamlet, and mixed with agriculture surrounding both, is this a good fit? Or is there a better fit somewhere else in terms of being compatible with your neighbors?
Well, Mr. Chambers, I thought I kind of addressed that a little bit. But when you say a good fit, you know when you drive down Muir Line, you don't see precast right to Muir Line, right? And theoretically, I could do that, right? So why don't I? Why do I go buy more land and throw away industrial zone that I'm not even using to try to keep the aesthetics, if you want to put it that way, looking more like it's a country property or versus basically a fence, big high fence with precast units against it. You don't see that. So I think of course, everybody's opinion is different. I think it does, but somebody else in the crowd might say no. That's best I can answer.
Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to staff, just a point of clarification or question that I have. In regards to the comment made earlier that our process specifically doesn't allow the public input on the site plan process, just to clarify, that is a province-wide policy that would not enable us to. And further, that is something that we would be able to do through a community plan permitting system. Is that correct?
Through the mayor to Councillor Oakley. So yes, the community planning permit system would open the door that we'd be looking at both of them in an overlapping process. So we'd be looking at everything at the same time, yes. The current Planning Act process, the province was taking away the controls and leaving site plan to the delegated down to a staff to avoid comments and appeals from the public and issues from the public holding things up. So they did try to move that away from the public realm, which is why it's at a staff level designation, because it's dealing with technical issues.
Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I understand correctly what Jeremy is saying, the site plan control process is effectively a closed process. And in many respects, it seems to me like we're talking about the design of the site, the structure itself. I think the concern, if I'm reading this right, of the residents is not so much the building of this site, it's when it's in operation. So what are the mechanisms that residents have if, when the site is operating, it falls outside of the agreed parameters?
To Councillor Bell, the site plan obviously will set the parameters, and if they're operating outside of that, it would be a complaint to our bylaw enforcement department, who would then enforce that and use the site plan control as an enforcement mechanism. So it would be let's say, for example, let's say they put up a new lighting fixture or change lighting fixtures without approvals, and they're much brighter, and they would change the lighting in the neighborhood. Then, because the site plan would have shown what kind of lighting was there, they would go back to that and we would use that to enforce that, saying that this was the approval, you need to go back to these, for example. So we would use that as an enforcement mechanism to protect the site, to ensure it operates within the parameters that were set originally.
Thank you. And that, you took lighting as an example, Jeremy, but if it was dust or it was noise, same answer?
Same answer, yes. So any of those requirements we placed in the site plan agreement are tied to those drawings, and the locations and everything would be matched to that. So if they did operate with outside of them, we would enforce it under the site plan control process.
Any other questions? I think the people in the room should know we're a little uneasy with this process because the site plan was just taken away from us as a council. So new legislation took the site plan away from us. We used to be able to look at the site plan and make sure the parking was right, make sure the ramps lined up to the handicapped parking spaces and all the things that just made sense to us as a council before it was rubber stamped, and they've taken that away from us. So if we seem a little nervous, and Councillor Chambers is a little nervous that something's going to happen, and we didn't see it, or we didn't find it, or we didn't identify it, it looks bad on the council, but it's not part of what we do anymore. Site plans have been taken away from council, and it's very unsettling, I think. Well, it is to me, I don't know, I think other councillors think the same way, is we don't want to see this thing go up and all of a sudden the ramp goes into a wall and the handicap parking's over here and nothing makes sense because somebody didn't catch it. It used to be our job to catch it, and now we don't catch it. It's up to staff. And if there's no other questions from council, we are going to open it up to the room, but I really do think that the time we gave you at the beginning of the meeting was very good because it showed a lot of what you do and how you handle your staff and just it's a good business. It's a wonderful business. I think that you do listen to neighbors, and I think that if someone did come knocking at your door, you'd answer it. You'd have an answer for them. So I'm glad that we know you. I'm glad that the County of Brant knows you. And I mean, it's not the best thing maybe some of the residents want to hear, but we do know you, and I think that we can trust that you will do something. I mean, you might not want to commit to a public meeting right now, but I think as you see people being concerned about their everyday living, how they live and things like that, I think you will do the right thing, and I think you will have some sort of a meeting. You might not be able to explain what it's going to look like tonight, but I believe it will happen if it needs to happen. And I also believe that things like dust control, and there's all kinds of things that you can do. I mean, I think of drag races, and I think of Ohsweken Speedway and Erin Speedway. They have demolition derbies, and you can't see anything, and they bring out great graders full of water, and they take away the dust within minutes. And things like that are just sort of things that can be added to a strategic plan if you need to do it. And I mean, I don't know what that looks like, that machine that they bring out with water to take away dust at a speedway or a dragway, but it works. So you might want to find out where they got that and have a couple of those handy for the roads. So I believe that you will do the right thing. So if there's no other questions from council, I'm going to open it up to the room, the chamber, and you can either come and speak to or against the application, and they're all here to answer your questions. And who's first? Come on up. Just give us your name and your address, please, and then let us know what's on your mind.
My name's Jacob Worth. I'm from 813687 Baseline.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, and fellow community members. My name is Jacob Worth. I'm a fourth generation resident of New Durham. Our family has farmed here for over 100 years. We own land directly across the road from the proposed Stubby's expansion. Our adjoining properties have allowed us to watch Stubby's grow through the generations. Stubby's Precast is a family business owned and operated by community members. They're an active community partner. I serve as a board member of the Durham Cemetery Company, where Stubby's donates high-quality lawn care services completely free of charge. This isn't a one-time gesture, it's ongoing support that saves the cemetery money and ensures the cemetery is well kept for visitors. The cemetery board would have to disband without this pivotal support. management would overturn to the township, which would most likely lead to the cemetery becoming inactive. Our last quotes for lawn care were over $7,000 annually. The reason you don't know about this service to the community is because when asked, Stubbies declined recognition. Stubbies is also a platinum sponsor of the Spring Yard Cleanup for Cancer, a donation-based yard work initiative in New Durham and surrounding areas. This program has raised over $4 million to date for cancer charities. That kind of impact doesn't happen without strong, consistent backing from local businesses like Stubbies. They provide material support in the form of trucks, trailers, facilities, and physical support, with the owners' families partaking in volunteering. Employees are also encouraged to participate. In addition, I'm a board member of the Oxford Soil and Crop Association, which Stubbies has supported as well. They have sponsored us and attended our AGM as an exhibitor with their agricultural products. They have also opened their doors to provide all Oxford Soil and Crop members with an in-depth tour of their plant and surprised our group with complimentary lunch. Anytime my family or I have had questions or concerns about their operation, we have received a timely answer. Stubbies has been happy to engage and address all questions. They regularly host tours for community members. That willingness and openness to engage, educate, and support local organizations matters and makes Stubbies a good neighbor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next. Yep. Just your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Mike Van Wyk, 362 Concession Road 7,
Thank you.
which is interesting because Bob Van Wyk is 362 Harley Road. So some of my mail is up there, even though I've never met him before. Anyways, but yeah, I just wanted to say I've been an employee at Stubbies for quite some time. They've been super good to me. They're awesome to work for. They've helped support me and my family for years. Just the way I think of things, a company growing offers security to me and my family. So if a company isn't growing, it's going backwards. So I like to see that they grow. And yeah, that's basically it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah. And again, just your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Mike Arnold, 1 Northfield Drive, Paris. I've been a resident since 2015 here, and I've worked for Stubbies Precast since 2017. I just wanted to come up and say a few words about the character of the company that I work for. Something that's always struck me since I started working there is the firm commitment to their values. It's been said already a bunch of times tonight, but commitment to the community, you know, paying back in. I've watched time and time again where Stubbies will come up against a problem and not hesitate for a second to put their own finances, their own time, and their own efforts into solving the problem. So that's something that I wanted to come up and say. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Come on up. And your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
My name is Dawn Horst. I'm at 86 Third Concession.
Okay, thank you.
Although a resident of the community, I also am the HR manager at Stubbies and have been for 9 years. And in that time, I sit in a unique spot where I see both sides. I see from the employees and from the ownership, because I do work closely with the ownership team in my position. And I just want to again reinforce the fact that the company gives back to its employees and its community. Andy does not exaggerate when Andy says that he knows every employee. He knows them all by name. Amazes me every day. This group of employees and people is what makes me love going to work every day, and I'm very proud of the company that I work for and the fact that they give back to the community.
Thank you for that. Your name and your address, please.
Danielle Najadlik, 367 Harley Road.
Thank you.
We want to work with you. Stubbies, it's a real thing. We do want to make this work. We appreciate you guys as a company. But it's our home. Let's find a way to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to come up? Your name and your address, please.
Brian Frechette, 111 Dobney Road, Brantford.
Thank you.
I've worked at Stubby's for 5.5 years. I've been one of the many that have benefited from their last expansions. I started out as quality control, moved into sales, and ultimately system development, where I work as a senior software developer now. I've worked for a lot of companies that have claimed they have a family mentality in the past, but up until working for Stubby's, I didn't know what that actually meant. I love every one of the wonderful men and women I work with as brothers and sisters. I'm proud to work for Stubby's. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else in the room that wants to speak to or against the application? Are you hiring?
My name is Jan Schild, 370 Harley Road. One thing I want to say, if Andy is such a good boss for everybody around him that's working for him, can he be the same guy to us as the neighborhood? The dust and the things that were brought up do bother us. Trucks do bother us, speed do bother us. I have an older house, shakes every time a heavy truck comes by. So if he's such a good guy for everybody working for him, if he can be there to us as a neighborhood as well, that'd be amazing.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yeah. And your name and your address, please, sir.
My name is Stephen Cole. I live at 25 Trimden Ave in Brantford.
Thank you.
I have worked for Stubby's for 11 years. Similar to Brian, I started in a different position, moved my way up to system development. One of the things I'm helping with Stubby's is a lot of the innovation with the programs that they use. And in the 11 years that I've been there, I have witnessed a company that does truly treat their employees like family. They care about their employees, they care about the community. I wound up getting quite sick for a while I was working with Stubby's, and they were oh so generous to my family in allowing me to work from home while my treatments were going on. And now that I'm better, I'm back in the office again, and the difference is amazing. So I just wanted to get up here and say that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Your name and your address for the clerk, please.
My name's Franz Vandenheuvel. I live at 460 Second Concession, Princeton. Yeah, I've been with Stubby's since 2010, so over 15 years now. I was born, not in Brant County, but grew up in Brant County, so I've been here for most of my life. Definitely watched it grow a lot over the years, and from when I started, there were less than 100 employees to what it is now. It is amazing to see a company that reinvests into itself. Like others have said, that's how you can recognize a company that truly cares about growth and its employees. I love working there from a sense of the family feel. You definitely see it there more than I have seen it in any other place that I've worked, and it's definitely something special, and appreciate the continued growth that we see.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Yep, come on up. Your name and address, please, for the clerk.
Yeah, Evan Pollock, 356 Isabel in Mississauga. I'm here to speak on behalf of the apartment industry in general. I work for a company called First National Financial. We're the largest apartment lender in the country. I think we can all agree that we have an affordability crisis in our cities. I can say that when I look at every single project across the country, Stubby's is the only product that actually solves for cost, which then solves for affordability. I think that they build a product that is for the everyday person, whether you're a teacher, a police officer, a firefighter. Because of the cost of construction of the other build forms, people can't afford to live in our communities. And I think it's a vital business in order to solve the housing crisis or affordability crisis that we're experiencing.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, both of you come up so that one of you are here when the other one's finished. Your name and your address, please.
Chris Klein, 375 Harley Road.
Thank you.
Just in regards to this bylaw change or the zone change, I was living in New Durham for about 2 years. I did move from the hamlet of Holbrook just before that. When I relocated, to be honest, there was some people that said there were some concerns about noise and traffic levels, but it was honestly no worse than Holbrook was where it was previously. And I do appreciate the fact that it's Saturday and Sundays is quieter and there's not really much noise coming from that perspective. There was one concern I had. There was some loud music from one of the employees was on night shift, and I brought it to management and it was addressed, and I haven't heard it since. And that was happening on a routine basis, and it hasn't happened since that time. And then lastly, just at a time when there's seems like a bit of an economic downturn, a project like this is has meaningful benefits as well. It supports local contractors and businesses, and in the short term, and also long-term employment for about 100 people. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Hughes, 164 Harley Road. I have a couple of questions, and one pertains to the crushing of concrete. I'd like to know, they say they're only going to do it a few months in the wintertime. Who's going to monitor that? The second question about the crushing is silica released from the crushing. How do you control that, and how far does it go? With the prevailing winds from the west, how far does this silica go? And what risks, what health risks does it pose to the residents nearby, even as far away as Harley? The second thing was water usage. It was stated that I think 50,000 liters per day. Who monitors that? Is that a self-monitored thing? Is it something we just have to accept that they're using under, or is there a monitoring system that measures the amount of water? So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Who wants to come up and answer those questions? Who monitors the water? Yes.
All our mixed records are computerized. So basically, we can show what monitors there is, but as a specific person, like a farmer, does not mean that somebody not monitors water. We also have monitoring wells. The water monitoring well is we track where the water level is in the aquifers. And those wells, the records are also available for review by the ECA.
I'm going to need you to come back up and say it into the microphone so that everyone watching can hear you. Sorry.
So all our water that we charge into the mixers is monitored via computers. Everything's computerized. So those records are available for review. And also we have monitoring wells throughout the property, part of the ECA thing. We monitor the levels of those wells as well.
Okay. So if the Board of Health wanted to come in and look at your records or that's not a problem?
Absolutely not. The information is readily available, so.
Perfect, thank you. And he did mention last year was a dry year, so if we did want to go to any comparables, I think we would need to do a 3 to a 4 year.
I'd also like to say, of those 5 wells, 3 are up and 2 are just going to work all the time.
Okay.
That's still.
All right. I'll make sure that gets in the record. Yeah. And what was the other one? Water and? Dust. Dust. Well, I've already given you the answer for that. You go to Cayuga Speedway. Silica, oh, well, that's something different. Who's going to tell us who monitors the, yeah.
Christopher Buck. I'm part of the compliance department for Stubbies. So, that resident asked about, who monitors how long we would be crushing throughout the year. That would be, the Ontario government. So we would have to show them, our records of the date we start crushing, what days we crush, what days we don't, and when that crusher leaves the property. And then for silica dust, we haven't got straight answers yet. It's part of the application we're working on. The answer on whether silica dust is released in the concrete crushing is, jury's kind of out on it. Our consultants say that during the reaction of the cement powder reacting with water to create the concrete, the silica is then locked away, and when it's crushed, it cannot come back out. Online, there are reports that that's the opposite, that it does come back out during crushing. So that'll be up to the Ontario government to decide which way they look at that. From our research, between Andy and I did it actually today, we did some looking for dust setbacks on concrete crushing in Ontario. From what we've seen, it's about 250 to 750 meters from the crusher to residential areas. The closest resident on the village side from that would be about 1.1, 1.2 kilometers. But that will be up to the Ontario government to decide if they want to extend that distance. So they can, based on modeling for noise and dust on that our specific plant, running our specific material, they can change the setback distances as they see fit. Hope that kind of answers your questions. Is there anything else I missed in there?
No, I think that's it. Is there anyone in the room that wants to? Yeah, like, if concerns haven't been answered, please come up. No? This is your chance. It's, okay. If there's anybody else in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Okay. Then your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Winston Vanderritter, 377 Harley Road.
Okay.
So I've lived in New Durham since May 2024, directly across the road from Plant 1. Noise from the existing plant has been very minimal, and the facility is closed on Sundays, so there's no noise on those days. I've been employed at Stubbies as a mechanic since April 2025. I previously worked at Stubbies about 5 years ago, and then left for 5 years before returning, as I missed and value the work environment and the company culture of Stubbies. I believe the proposed new plant will help ensure continued stability and steady employment for me as an employee, so I'll be able to continue to support my family.
Thank you. Your name and your address, please.
My name is Joshua Averink. I'm at 357 Norwich Road, Scotland.
Thank you.
So I've been employed with Stubbies for 4 years, also a resident of Brant County. And in this up and down economy, I view employment with Stubbies always growing as stability for myself, for employees in the future. They're going to be hiring if this all gets approved and put through. So I would like to speak in favor.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Come on up. Your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Cody Garden, 26 McPherson Drive, Paris, Ontario.
Thank you.
So I work IT at Stubby's. I've been there for almost 2 years. I've lived in Paris for about 5-6 years now. And one thing that's really hard in the IT industry is finding a job, especially around these parts, because you're often looking at Toronto, Kitchener, the major cities. So I was very surprised to get a job, especially out in Norwich area. And my father, he's a truck driver. He's been driving truck his whole life. And I tried to follow suit, but he told me, son, don't ever be a truck driver because it's a big mistake. So I went into the IT career. But again, he comes home every day a little concerned whether he's going to have his job tomorrow, because a lot of truck drivers around this area, they haul to the US, and I'm sure you're familiar with the whole American situation, and it is creating a lot of instability. And that's one thing I can say for certain I've seen with Stubby's, is that they do a lot of local stuff here, so we're not as concerned. If anything, we're growing, which is very good, especially when I got my job 2 years ago. I was very concerned about job security. So I was really looking at government jobs, but even the government has had problems in recent years, so that's one thing I'd like to say. For Stubby's, I'm very surprised, so, yeah.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? I'm going to ask for a second time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? And I'm going to ask for the third and final time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, I'll call this meeting closed, and I'll take it back to council. It's on the floor. It has a seconder, Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do plan to vote in favor of the recommendation here. I think it comes down to, as staff mentioned, the municipal comprehensive review was done in the past 5 years. We went out of our way to add this into the official plan. And I think we would be, I think we often run into misaligning expectations when we're putting things into the official plan, and then when it comes to zoning, then we're modifying or turning things down. Recognizing that we were talking this evening about site plans being delegated to staff 6-7 years ago. Frankly, if you look at some other provinces that are doing better with getting things built and in particular housing, like BC, they've actually delegated down a lot of the zoning bylaw stuff. And I think just for this reason, I mean, we've made the decision in the past 5 years to include this in our official plan, to expand the urban boundary settlements. At this stage, it doesn't make much sense to me that we would turn it down. I think there's a larger conversation to be had about whether or not we should have at that time, especially as we've had conversations the past 6 months with some other folks who are looking to expand their businesses out in rural areas, and we're telling them, no, sorry, you gotta go find someone that we've already designated commercial or industrial, but nevertheless, we're where we are today. So I'm planning to vote in favor. I think it makes good sense based on what we did with our official plan. Thank you.
Any other comments, concerns? Councillor Chambers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those of you that don't know, I know New Durham quite well. I rode through the hamlet every day for 5 years when I was going to high school on the bus. I just live around the corner from New Durham. I actually have in my garage the old New Durham sign, so I know New Durham quite well. I also know Stubby's quite well. I was on council when the original extended use for the village to make the concrete hog slats, and that passed, and there's been various applications since then. So I know Stubby's is a wonderful organization, and they certainly do good things for the community. But I'm going to wave a red flag. And I know when Andy sees a red flag, he will do something about it. And the challenge to Andy is when you see this red flag, do what you can to make the people of New Durham feel comfortable where they live. And for that reason, my red flag will be a no vote. And I hope that when we carry off into the site plan application, that perhaps some information can be provided to the community to show what Stubbies are willing to do to make their application better suited to the area that it's in. But my red flag, Andy, you can turn it green, but I'm not going to support it at this time. I would like to see a meeting and an explanation of the site plan and carry on from there.
Well, that's why we haven't got more development in Durham. You stole the sign. They don't know where they're going. Some things just become so crystal clear, don't they? Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know much about New Durham, but for those of you that don't know me, I went to university in Old Durham in the UK. And Old Durham goes back to the year dot, I think. So New Durham I've driven through many times. I'm very impressed with what Stubbies have done in the last many years that I've been here. I think I heard from Andy that he knows what the issues are. And I think I heard a willingness to address them. And at the end of the day, it's all about, for him, accommodating his neighbours, if there is to be trust in the long term. And I hope that, as Councillor Chambers has suggested, that Andy will open up the site plan control process to a more of a collaborative, investigative input from the community. And as I mentioned when asking Jeremy, what's the ultimate control? I think at the end of the day, if this plant is built, and I will support it, I expect Stubbies to manage it as per the plan, and then they have to live with the consequences if they don't. And I think the mechanism to address ongoing concerns, Jeremy has outlined, and if residents are concerned, then they need to come back to Jeremy just to double check on that, but bylaw is the route to follow. So I will support it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Kyle?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Miller was first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Miller, I didn't look to the left. Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just to kind of reiterate what has been said. We on this planning committee at council are but kind of, we're caught between a concrete and a crusher. It's a bit of a hard spot for us simply because in the planning application before us tonight, the planner has recommended approval. That means that if we were to turn it down, it would go to the Ontario Land Tribunal where it would probably, there's a very, very good chance that it would move forward. And when it goes to the Ontario Land Tribunal, it is taken out of our hands and things are decided at another level of government. And I don't think that's fair to the local people. And at the same time, we're relying on a site plan control, which we have no oversight of. So that, again, another frustrating part. But I think, as has been said already a couple times, the site has been designated employment in the official plan. So the horse has already left the barn on that aspect of it. So we're just trying to make, I guess, at the end of the day, the best of a bad situation for people living in New Durham. Obviously not for all the people working for them and all the good work Stubbies has done. But again, getting back to maybe what Councillor Bell has mentioned and a few others, and we've heard here tonight, Stubbies has done a lot of good work. And I wanted Andy to at least share some of that tonight because I don't think everybody understands that. And I think, as I said, when they came before us before, they have a can-do attitude. They can get things done. They just need to know what they need to get done. And in that respect, when it comes to making this fit with New Durham, there needs to be more communication between the neighbors and Stubbies. And we know communication can be a good thing because I understand maybe some of the neighbors have gotten to know each other a lot better after this, after discussing this application. So I will support it, knowing that the options aren't great, but also knowing that Stubbies can and will do the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Miller. Councillor Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, through you. I too am going to speak in support of the application for very similar reasons to some of my other colleagues. While there are certainly some concerns that do still need to be addressed by the residents, from the residents, I too saw a willingness of the applicant to work with the community members to ensure that they can address those concerns to the best of their ability. I think to Councillor Miller's point, these types of applications do kind of find us between a rock and a hard place. As most people will know, I'm a pretty staunch advocate for farmland being taken out of production. But in this case, with that land already being designated for employment, that does somewhat tie our hands. And while I hate to see that land come out of production, at the same time, I do see a lot of value in what Stubbies brings to the community and to the county more broadly, and even to the province more broadly in terms of economic value, an option for our lower income housing. So I think that there's a lot of positives there, even though there is the soul crushing, part of having the farmland taken out of production. So I will speak in support of the application for tonight for those reasons.
Thank you. Anyone else from council have anything more to say? Councillor Chambers.
Could I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
If Kevin Hill is in the audience, I can't see if he's here or not. I know he wants the New Durham sign, so if he sees me after the meeting, we can make an arrangement.
All right, as long as we know where it is. Anything else to be said for the application? If not, I'm going to get the clerk to read the application and the recommendation, and then we'll vote.
Through your worship, the recommendation on the floor is that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1525LG from GSP Group Incorporated, agent on behalf of Stubbies Precast Concrete, applicant on behalf of 588922 Ontario Inc., and Stubbies Investment Inc., owner of concession 9, part lot 23, part lot 24, RP2R 1040, PT1, County of Brant, in the geographic township of Burford, located at 348-354 Harley Road, is proposing to rezone a portion of the subject lands from agricultural, special exception A1 to light industrial, special exception M241, natural heritage vegetation protection zone NH1 and natural heritage NH, to bring the subject lands into conformity with the general employment official plan designation and to facilitate the expansion of the existing industrial facility be approved, and that the reasons for approval are as follows. The application will bring the subject lands into conformity with the official plan and is in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw. The application is consistent with the policies of the provincial planning statement. The application will facilitate the expansion of the existing industrial operation on lands within the New Durham rural settlement boundary.
Thank you. All those in favor of the approval? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We're going to now do the second part. It's 10-2, isn't it, Spencer? Yeah. Lauren, if you want to come back up.
Thank you. I will be presenting zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1625LG submitted by GSP Group, agent on behalf of Stubbies Precast Concrete, applicant on behalf of 2160382 Ontario Inc. and 2030717 Ontario Inc. Owners of lands located at 2044 Muir Road South. Staff are recommending approval of this application.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there just for a moment so that I can declare this a public meeting, and it's now open. Okay, if you want to carry on, sorry.
The subject lands are located east of Muir Road South and south of 9th Concession Road, with a portion of the lands being within the New Durham settlement area. The subject lands contain Stubby Precast Concrete's head office and manufacturing operations. They function as an industrial campus composed of multiple parcels of lands, each with separate entrances and buildings. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 1,260 meters along Muir Road South and approximately 600 meters along 9th Concession Road. The subject lands have an approximate area of 68.42 hectares. The surrounding land uses consist of agricultural to the north, east, and west, with residential and industrial located to the south. The subject lands are designated as general employment, agriculture, and natural heritage system. The lands to be rezoned are within the New Durham settlement area. The subject lands are zoned as agricultural employment, special exception, AE 29, agriculture, and natural heritage. The zoning bylaw amendment application proposes to rezone a portion of the subject lands from agricultural employment, special exception, agriculture, and natural heritage to light industrial, special exception, natural heritage vegetation protection zone, and open space. The existing industrial use has encroached into the north parcel. The zoning bylaw amendment seeks to correct this by permitting the use through the site-specific zoning bylaw amendment and bring the lands into conformity with the general employment official plan designation. The table provides a breakdown of the existing permitted uses and proposed uses. Consistent with zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1525 LG at 348 to 354 Harley Road, the applicants are proposing to limit the permitted light industrial M2 uses to only uses that are associated with the existing industrial facility. The parking, storing, and servicing of tractor trailers and concrete crushing have also been added as accessory uses. This table provides a breakdown of the zone provisions within the light industrial zone, the existing zone provisions, and the proposed zone provisions. With the exception of the street setback to Muir Road South, a setback of 75 meters for office and parking uses, and a setback of 175 meters for all other proposed uses. And all other provisions are consistent with ZBA 1525 LG at 348 to 354 Harley Road. All setbacks are intended to be from the property lines, and works related to the employment use are to remain within the general employment designation and settlement area boundary. Key considerations include areas of archaeological significance. The stage 1 to 2 archaeological assessments identify 2 archaeological areas. Both areas and a 20-meter buffer are proposed to be rezoned from agriculture to open space to further protect the areas and prohibit development in the future. The natural heritage system recommendations from the environmental impact study are being implemented through the zoning bylaw amendment to establish a 10-meter buffer to the woodlands and 30-meter buffer to the wetland to further protect the existing natural heritage features. The buffers are proposed to be rezoned to natural heritage vegetation protection zone. A portion of the subject lands is currently zoned as natural heritage to recognize the previous Simons Hopkins municipal drain alignment. This drain was realigned in 2025, and the application is proposing to amend the zoning to natural heritage vegetation protection zone to recognize the new drain alignment and 30-meter buffers. Land use compatibility. The development is considered a Class 3 industrial use. The minimum separation between Class 3 industrial uses and sensitive uses is 300 meters. The future expansion is proposed to be located greater than 300 meters from existing residential uses. Recommendations from the completed technical reports will be implemented through the site plan control process to ensure land use compatibility. Notice of this application was posted on the property January 16th and mailed to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands on January 20th. Public comments of concern were received as part of the public circulation. The comments have been included for council's review, and the summary of comments are consistent with ZBA 1525 LG. They include whether the use is considered light industrial, proximity to the existing residential dwellings, loss of agricultural land, impact on water quality and quantity, impact to the environment, increased noise, dust, light pollution, and traffic from the industrial expansion, and whether the type B minimum distance separation would impact existing livestock facilities to expand. A summary of public comments and responses were included as part of the agenda package. Future development of the lands within the employment designation will be subject to detailed technical review as part of a site plan control application, which includes zoning compliance, traffic, access, landscaping, grading, drainage, noise, dust, and lighting. And recommendations from the completed technical reports will be implemented through the site plan control process to implement mitigation measures and ensure land use compatibility. For the reasons outlined in my report, it is my professional recommendation that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1625LG be approved. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant have another formal presentation, or are you just here for questions? Yeah, I think we can do questions. Okay, all right. Someone has, it's the same man that's here to speak. Bob, do you want to come back up? No, you're okay, you're okay? Okay, because this is an open meeting, does anyone in the room want to come and speak to or against this application? I'll ask for the second time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? And I'll ask for a third and final time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, I will call this part of the public meeting closed and bring it back to council. Can I get it on the floor so we can talk about it, please? Councillor Oakley, Councillor McAlpine. Council, questions, concerns? Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Lauren, just a clarity question. The 50,000 litres per day limit on water drawdown, does that cover the whole site, or is it just for this application and it's a separate 50,000 litre limit for the expansion we just talked about?
Through the chair, I may need to defer that question to the applicant, just because the way Stubby's operations works, they are operating on different sites. They're all separate parcels. However, it's all part of one industrial operation. So I would like to have them confirm how that works.
Okay, then just while they're thinking about answering the question, if it's 50 here and 50 there, that's 100 in total. Again, is there an impact of that on the water, on the aquifers that supply water to the neighbouring residents?
Through the chair. So there was, as part of the applications, they were both submitted separately, and they did also submit reports for both applications. So through that, there was no concerns were identified.
Okay, thank you. My second question, if I may, it seems like this is an application to bring the site into compliance. And there's nothing fundamentally changed from the way in which it operates today. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. It will bring it into compliance.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council, concerns, clarifications? Nothing? Okay, thank you. And I don't think we have anything more to explain from the applicant. We have a recommendation in front of us. Mr. Clerk, do you want to read it? I'm sorry, Councillor Chambers? I did 3 times. Thank you. Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to save the clerk, I don't think, I think because it's in front of us, we don't necessarily need the whole thing read out. I don't want Spencer to lose his voice.
Everybody's good with that? We don't have to read it? So it's in front of us. It's going to be approved. Call the vote. All those in favor of approval? What are you doing up there? Did you have approve? Yeah, okay. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. With that being said, we're going to take a recess to clear the chambers. Okay, we're back in open session, and we are at 9.1, which is 14 Queen Street. Roxana is going to speak to this, and again, it's a public meeting. I'll declare the meeting open now. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be presenting zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 24-25-RF for 14 Queen Street. The applicants are Scott Plander on behalf of Derek Fowler, who are present this evening. This application would establish zoning standards that would result in the future applications for a severance. The application is to be received as information at this time. The subject lands are located north of 14 Queen Street with a frontage along Queen Street and an area of approximately 1,000 square meters. Currently, the lands contain one existing single detached dwelling and a detached accessory structure. Surrounding area consists of low-density residential. The subject lands are serviced by municipal sewer and water. The property is located within an established neighborhood that includes deep, narrow lots containing one or two-story homes with minimal side and street setbacks. The subject lands are designated as neighborhoods within the official plan and are located within the settlement area of Paris. The intent of the neighborhood's designation is to permit low and mid-rise density development and encourage infill and intensification of the county's delineated built-up areas. The subject lands are zoned residential singles and semis, R2, within the zoning bylaw 6116. Through recent policy changes, the R2 permits the following types of housing: single detached dwelling, duplex, fourplex, row house, stacked row house, street fronting row house, triplex, and group home. The application proposes to add a site-specific R2 zoning provisions to be able to establish a new lot. The image on the right shows what the building footprint could look like. The concept plan shows what is being proposed on the lands to be rezoned and possible future development on the lot, which could include a detached dwelling and a potential accessory structure. The dashed line represents the future severance, which would create a new lot with 8 meters of frontage. The retained parcel is the portion of the property that remains after the severance. Site specifics are only being proposed for a reduced frontage and lot area and a driveway of 6 meters. Therefore, the development of future lot would be subject to all existing zoning standards, setbacks, height, and parking. A concurrent consent application has been submitted to facilitate the severance. Staff recognize that the proposed lot is much more narrow than the standard 15 meters, but similar narrow, deep lots already exist in the neighborhood. Any infill or intensification needs to be compatible with the surrounding pattern, and this proposal is being assessed with that in mind. The concept plan shown in the picture demonstrates that the lot can accommodate a 2-story dwelling with an attached garage and a rear accessory structure. It also shows appropriate setbacks and lot coverage, so the scale fits the lot and does not look overdeveloped. In terms of function, intensification may be supported if adequate servicing is provided. Staff will work with the applicant through the planning and permit processes to ensure water, sanitary, and stormwater in place. Parking can be accommodated on site with the garage and driveway, which is similar to neighboring properties. Sufficient on-site or on-street parking will be available. The proposed layout is being refined. but it is intended to minimize impacts on neighboring properties while maintaining usable amenity area and space. Here is a picture of the surrounding area with the subject lands and proposed lot highlighted in red. As you can see from the picture, several lots highlighted in the white are similar in shape and size of the proposed lot. These highlighted white lots have frontages ranging from 8 to 11 meters, consist of a mix of singles and semis, and include detached accessory structures in the rear yards. On this slide, I wanted to show the built form and development of some of the highlighted white lots that are comparable to the proposed lot to be created through the specific zoning provisions. Here are a few pictures to give you some examples of the various types of development in the neighborhood, which are appropriate types of infill and intensification that is supported by the official plan. The application is currently being reviewed and has been circulated to relevant commenting agencies, as well as to all property owners within a 120-meter radius. We received 2 formal comments today. The comments concerns relate to restricted airflow, sunlight, lot coverage, lot area, noise, privacy, open space, and the uses and type of development being proposed. However, there may still be members on the audience who wish to speak. Staff is currently working with the applicant to establish how to move forward with zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2425RF, and will bring it forward for recommendation once the next steps are finalized. Thank you, and I am happy to answer any questions, also noting that the applicants are here as well.
Thank you. Do the applicants want to speak? Do you want to speak? Come on up. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm Scott Plandre. I'm a planner with J. Douglas Valley. I'm representing the applicant, Derek Fowler, who is also up here with me tonight. So I don't know if it needs to be on the screen or if Council can see what I'm showing. There we go. So it is a zoning bylaw amendment to permit a single detached dwelling on a smaller lot. So when we provided some of the required relief as part of the zoning bylaw amendment, you see that there is a variance of 7 meters in frontage. That's only because it's a single detached dwelling. If it was a semi-detached or a townhouse, the lot frontage and lot area is allowed to be smaller, and if not the same size as that we're requesting. So the reason that it is such a large variance is the bylaw requires a much larger frontage for a street townhouse or a semi-detached. But importantly, that's been noted, all of the other provisions have been met, both for the severed land and the retained lands. It's important to note that we did provide a site concept for the retained lands with the existing dwelling and an ARU in the back, but all provisions of the bylaw have been met for that property. So we're just looking at these specific provisions. We did request variance to driveway. I'll get into where, depending on the site plan, and as that was pointed out by county planning, we are still working through some of the design requirements for that. So we'll go through some of the site plans and we can see what the overall site will look like. So the site plans here, 3 options have been provided. The one on the far left is where we're leaning to. That's the one with the attached garage. It meets the front yard setback. The other 2 are if there wasn't a garage. Planning staff did indicate that maybe from a street aesthetic standpoint that maybe it would be better without a garage. So we would need those 2 parking spots. So that's where the 6-meter driveway width comes into play. Obviously, the preferred is the garage format, and we could remove that driveway width from the implementing bylaw as we kind of work through this between now and the decision meeting. As you can see, again, that lot width, as has been pointed out, it's not out of character with the area. It was just the fact that the bylaw requires a much larger frontage for a single detached dwelling, even though this would be the same size as a townhouse or a semi-detached, which is also permitted in the zone. So from an elevation standpoint, these are the working drawings that the applicant is looking to construct. It's a single detached dwelling, 2-story, on a smaller lot than that's required by the zoning bylaw. So as was pointed out by county planning staff, I won't go too far into this because it was covered well. There's over 18 lots in the area that have similar frontages. There's even more around the corner on Amelia and Ball Street. So it's not out of character with the area. And again, would in fact be more in character by providing that single detached vice a townhouse or a semi-detached. The R2, as again was pointed out, this lot, due to how deep it is and how wide it is, the applicant's a local builder. They provide custom home quality products. They're not looking to just cut and paste and slam something in there as much as they can. The fact that this lot is so wide and so deep, most builders, developers might try to get probably a 3-unit townhouse on there. There's enough width or enough depth to push it even further back that all could have ARUs. You'd be looking at, from a zoning standard, you'd be allowed to have up to 9 units with the primary units in the ARUs if they went that direction. The applicant obviously lives in the community, lives in Paris, local builder, small local builder. They want to make sure they're keeping that feel as best as possible. That's why with the approach they're coming forward with, there'd be a maximum of 4 units permitted, 3 on the retained lands. And then because of the way the setup is on the severed lands, there would only be the primary dwelling unit, just restrictions on parking and other bylaw restrictions. So from a planning standpoint, the only thing that we're seeking relief from is the frontage and the lot area. Again, but that's only because it's a single detached dwelling, vice a townhouse or a semi-detached. If it was a townhouse or semi-detached, this wouldn't be in front of council. But with the way the bylaw is worded, it does require that consideration of council. Thank you, and we can answer any questions that committee may have.
Okay, thank you. For those of you in the room that want to follow this application, there's a sign-up sheet on the podium. Just put your name down and you can follow the progress of this application as it moves forward. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Yeah, come on up. Come on up. And just state your name and your address, please, for the clerk. Oh, come on, there we go.
Paul Crawford, I live at 22 Ball Street. This is my wife, Annette.
Thank you.
I have several concerns as I'm property adjoining on the back, that I have a nice private backyard now. Having a 2-story structure just would take away my privacy. I have concerns with drainage, fire. If there's a house fire, there is literally no room to get into this building if you've only got 1.2 meters of clearance on each side. And I think it takes away the aesthetics of the neighborhood by putting this 2-story unit, and then with the addition of these affordable rented units and another structure in the rear. Those are my concerns.
Okay.
Annette Crawford, I live at 22 Ball Street. We previously lived on the north end of town, and I found it too busy. There was always construction next to me, so we moved to a very established neighborhood with big trees. And I'm not against anything, but I think he's putting a lot on a double lot. He's putting he's got 2 rentals and a garage, and he wants to add another house and another garage in the back. There'll be 3 parking spots that will be facing with their headlights to our backyard. Just the noise and the trees will be cut down. It's not what I signed, you know, it's not what I purchased my house for. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Come on up. And your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Thank you. My name is Susan Darling. I live at 24 Ball Street, and I'm here to express my concerns regarding the construction and proposed changes to 14 Queen Street. As the property borders my backyard, I have vegetable gardens that might be affected by sunlight, and I have one along the fence and another raised garden 13 feet from there, and I preserve my own food because of the cost of groceries, and I'm also concerned about the placement of the two-story house because of the loss of sunlight and negative impact on my gardens and just the aesthetics of when I go in my backyard and enjoy my space. I find that's going to be very upsetting to me because I love my backyard. I love being outside, and I do not want to go outside and look at all these structures and the trees being gone. Like, I just find it very upsetting. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up and speak? Yep, come on up. Just your name and your address, please, sir.
Yes, my name's Robert Quackenbush. I live on 11 Main Street. My backyard comes right up to the structures here. I'm pretty concerned, not so much about the house, but the back buildings there. If you get a magnifying glass, even without glasses, it says shop on there. I believe these residents are going to be rentals. There's lots of vehicles there. I know the two chaps, not personally, but they got two monster trucks parked there, basically. They got a Mustang and the other, they got 4 cars between the two of them in one residence. The back building, if you get a magnifying glass, it says shop on there. If it is a rental property, why do they need a shop? If it's storage in the back, I agree with that, because renters are gonna need a place to put their stuff too. But if it's gonna be a shop, is it gonna be operating during the weekend? If I come home on a Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday, I'm gonna be hearing saws and whatever going on in this shop? That's my concern. I just wanna know if that's gonna be a shop, a working shop.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Do you want the applicant, you want to come up and speak to any of these concerns?
I'm Derek Fowler, 45 Laurel Street in Paris. I own 14 Queen Street. So basically, what I understand everyone's concerns about the privacy of the buildings. Our plan is to put a fence around the entire building. The shop, it's more or less, it is just an oversized shed, which runs very common with a lot of the other buildings in the property, also that back onto 14 Queen Street. Again, just looking forward, we are looking for just a reduced size for this specific lot. I know there may be some concerns with the ARU. However, the ARU, we've fallen within all bylaws for that. So yeah, I'm willing to work with the neighborhood. Again, I grew up born and raised in St. George. I've been in Paris for 18 years, and building is inevitable. I would like to try to scale it down a little bit and just kind of make it work with the community we live in, as I live here as well.
I think just, and also we did hear about drainage. So because this is going through a zoning bylaw amendment, normally what you see is a simple grading plan that gets submitted with a building permit. We are working with development engineering to go through a full stormwater management plan. So it is exponentially more stringent than just a simple grading plan. There is retention and to make sure that it's not negatively affecting neighboring properties. And then obviously, as the applicant to support that, had to get supporting studies, had to get engineers involved rather than just a simple grading plan. That if this was, semi-detached or the townhouses would just be the simple grading permit or grading plan. So from the neighbor's perspective, that there is a higher level of review from that drainage perspective for this application.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Come on up. And just your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Tracy, hi. Question, is this unit being built, is it for rental purposes? And is there going to be 2 units in it, the same as the house that's currently there?
I'm unsure if it'll be used for rental or for sale at this time. It will, however, only be 1 unit, as we only have the parking availability for 2 vehicles, which is what would fall under the bylaw for a single detached home.
Okay. Did you have a follow-up question? You're okay? Anybody else want to speak to or against this application, knowing it's only for information? I'll ask for the second time, is there anyone else in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? I'll ask for the third and final time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, we'll call this part of the meeting closed, the public part, and I'm looking for council to get it on the floor for me, please. Councillor Howes and Councillor Oakley. Council, concerns, questions? Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarification. I think I heard the presenter say that there were 2 ARUs on the retained side. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, there is only 1 proposed ARU on the retained parcel.
Okay, thank you very much.
There is one internal to the dwelling.
Come on up.
Proposed detached in the back.
Okay, come up and say it into the microphone so the people at home can hear you. Sorry about that.
So from the ARU perspective for the retained lands with the existing dwelling, there is an ARU internal to that dwelling, and there is one detached in the detached structure on the back.
And just to clarify again, the number of parking spaces you have are sufficient for the main dwelling and 2 ARUs?
Yes, and with the long driveway, it even exceeds parking requirements, but we show the minimum required, and then with the long driveway, they've got more than enough.
Except that when you're on the long driveway, you can't get to your parking space.
And again, but we are showing sufficient parking without being tandemly stacked.
Okay, thank you. And is there an issue of lot coverage relative to our zoning bylaw?
For either application, no. All other zone standards have been achieved. There's no, for the retained or the severed lands, there's no lot coverage issues required.
Okay, a question for staff, if I may, Mr. Mayor. When was the last time we approved an 8-metre frontage for a new property in this area?
Who's going to do that, Chairman?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bell, I'm not aware of the time that we would have approved anything. Most of the lots in the vicinity are slightly larger. There are small lots. There are a few small lots in the area, more around 11 to 10 meters, but I'm not sure if there's an 8-meter. There is one very small square lot just around the corner, which is probably much smaller, but may have a larger frontage, but a much smaller land area, but I'm not sure when it was approved.
Yeah, I'm just troubled by the fact we're actually almost 50% of what we say in our zoning bylaw as lot frontage. So it's not exactly a minor variance, it's a pretty big variance. And I would hate to take the step that we support this based on precedent when the precedent is actually much more limited than your drawing would indicate. And certainly that's why I was interested in the timing. If the last time we approved an 8-metre lot was 1924, I have a slightly different perspective than if it was 2024.
Just to answer Councillor Bell, it is just for information tonight, for the receipt for confirmation, and then staff will be taking all the comments back to consider and bring forward what the recommendation is. It is obviously not a minor variance, otherwise if it was a minor variance, it'd go to committee of adjustment. This is a zoning amendment, that's why it's coming to council, because it is more significant.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Noting that it's to be received for information only. Councillor Miller, Okay, we'll call the vote. You don't need it read by Spencer, it's in front of you. All those in favor of receiving for information? Opposed and carried. Thank you. Okay, it takes us to 9.2, which is 399 Pleasant Ridge Road. And I'd like to say again that this is a public meeting and the public meeting is now open. Hi. Whenever you're ready, you can start.
Good night. I'm presenting zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2325 AV submitted by the Anglish Group on behalf of the owners of the property municipality known as 399 Pleasant Ridge Road. This item is being brought forward to council for information only. The purpose of this zoning bylaw amendment is to implement a condition of an approved surplus farm dwelling consent by rezoning the retained agricultural lands to prohibit any future residential development. The subject property is located west of Pleasant Ridge Road, east of Highway 24, and south of Ellis Avenue within the former township of Brantford. The lands are located outside of any settlement areas and are surrounded primarily by agricultural land uses. The property has 61 hectares of total area and approximately 470 meters of frontage along Pleasant Ridge Road. The property contains one single detached dwelling and a few agricultural buildings associated with the farming operation. The dwelling is located on the severed parcel, while the retained lands will continue to be actively farmed. Under the 2023 official plan, the subject lands are designated agriculture and natural heritage system, and under the zoning bylaw 6116, the lands are currently zoned as agriculture, resource extraction with a special exception or AX2, and natural heritage. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will remove the existing EX2 zoning and rezone the entire retained parcel to agriculture with a special exception, or A9. The A9 zoning will prohibit the establishment of any new dwelling units on the retained agricultural lands. This approach is a standard practice for surplus farm dwelling severances and ensures the long-term protection of agricultural lands. A consent application to sever a surplus farm dwelling on the subject property was approved by the Committee of Adjustment in December 2025. As part of that approval, a condition requires the retained land to be rezoned to prohibit the establishment of a new dwelling unit. This zoning bylaw amendment is intended to implement that condition. The resource extraction zone was applied to the subject property several years ago in anticipation of potential gravel extraction. However, extraction activities never proceeded and the owner no longer intends to pursue resource extraction on the subject property. There is no active license or agreement on the property for extraction. This amendment supports farm consolidation, protects the long-term agricultural land base, prevents further residential fragmentation of farmland, and maintains compatibility with surrounding agricultural uses. This application is being presented to Council for information only at this time. A staff recommendation report on the zoning bylaw amendment will be brought forward to Council at a future meeting following completion of the review process. In conclusion, this is a site-specific zoning amendment intended to implement a condition of a surplus farm dwelling consent that was approved in December 2025. Staff are presenting this item for Council's information only. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is Rashika here? Is she online? Rashika, do you have a presentation to? Hello.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I do not have any formal presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if any members have.
Okay. Okay, because it's a public meeting, we'll ask if there's anyone in the room that wants to speak to this application, to or against. There's no one in the room that wants to speak to this application in favor of or against. And I'll ask for the third time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to this application, to or against? Seeing none, we'll call this part of the meeting closed, and we'll give it to council. Can we get it on the floor, please? Councillor Bell, Councillor Coleman. Questions, council? No questions? Okay. You have the application, you have the recommendation in front of you. It's just to receive his information. All those in favor? You can see Councillor Miller there, that's good. Against? And carried. Thank you. Okay, so we are at 10-3, which is 81 Walnut Street. And again, it's a public meeting, and I'll call the meeting open, and staff is going to present first. And then again, Rashika is here online to speak after that. Whenever you're ready, please.
I'll be presenting zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 20-25-RF, submitted by Rashika Angrish on behalf of RHS Contracting, Inc., in care of Trevor Richardson. This application proposes a zoning change to apply a holding provision to satisfy a condition of approval related to consent application B20-25-RF at 81 Walnut Street. This application was previously presented for information on January 13th, 2026, and staff are now bringing it forward with a recommendation for approval. The subject lands are located south of Walnut Street with a frontage along Walnut Street and Mulholland Drive. Currently, the lands contain one existing single detached dwelling and a detached garage. The subject lands are designated as community node within the official plan and located within Paris and zoned as residential singles and semis. Zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 20-25-RF proposes to rezone the conditionally approved severed lands at 81 Walnut Street from residential singles and semis R2 to residential singles and semis with a holding provision. The holding provision will satisfy a condition of consent application B20-25-RF, conditionally approved by the Committee of Adjustment on September 18th, 2025, to facilitate the creation of a residential lot with a frontage on Mulholland Drive, which currently has no municipal servicing. The holding provision will remain in effect until servicing is provided and the lot is suitable for development. To date, there has been no comments received for public circulation. It is my professional opinion that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is appropriate and represents good planning as it permits the creation of a residential lot while ensuring development does not occur until servicing is available on Mulholland Drive. Therefore, I'm recommending that the application be approved for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Rashika, do you have a report, or are you here to just answer? Oh, Councillor Miller, did you have your hand up?
Just a couple questions for the planner when you're ready.
All right, well, you can go now if you like.
Okay, just, when they lift the holding, I think at one time they had to come back to planning. Is that still the case?
Through the mayor, yes, that is correct. The applicant will have to come back for another application to remove the holding.
It's interesting. Okay, and then servicing itself, you're putting an H on there. That kind of tells me that servicing might be a ways off. Is it a ways off? Do we have an idea when that might be coming?
Through the mayor, right now there is road reconstruction that is happening in the East Flats neighborhood, and it's expected to begin in the spring of 2026. It may include servicing for Mulholland Drive. The applicants have to reach out, though, to the operations department to put that project in with the East Flats project that's happening.
Okay, thank you.
Rashika, do you have anything to add, or?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we have reached out to the operations department already to include the section of up to this property into the project. The project is in very early stages, and we will be working over next several months with the operations department to ensure that the servicing is available. The owner is anxious to complete the severance as they would need a new driveway for the existing house, and which fronts onto Walnut Street. So they wanted to get that completed in the nicer weather. So that is the reason why we chose to proceed with the holding provision to satisfy the conditions of severance to get that completed. We understand that we will have to come back once the service connections are available to the severed lot for the removal of holding prior to any building permits that will be available. So with that understanding, I'm happy to answer any more questions if any members have.
Okay, that's good. Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to jump in to address Councillor Miller's questions there, as several of us, I live in the flats, and I've had a few conversations with operations on this. So Mulholland is not included in either phase 1 or phase 2, so that's our 2026 project and our 2029 project. So we're looking somewhere after 2030 for this.
Okay, thank you. Did you hear that, Rashika?
Thank you for the comments. Yes, we will continue to work with our operations department and to see when currently it has not been included. That understanding is correct. However, the owner would, let's put it that way. So if the project is feasible in terms of cost to extend the service line up to the frontage, then the owner understands that aspect, that they would be willing to pay for that extension when the design stage and the cost estimates are being undertaken. So we are closely working with operations. So the cost that will be to extend that line on up to the frontage of this property would be borne by the applicant if they don't want to wait until 2030. So we'll continue to work with your staff on that piece.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Is there anyone in the room for the second time that wants to speak to or against this application? And I'll ask for the third and final time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, I'll call this part of the meeting closed. I'm looking for council to put it on the floor. Councillor Coleman and Councillor Howes. Any questions or concerns? Call the vote. The recommendation is in front of you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to 10-4 on the agenda, which is 358 West Quarter Line Road. And it is a public meeting again, and I declare it open.
Through you, Mayor, this report relates to zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2225 AV for the property municipality known as 358 West Quarter Town Line Road, submitted by the owner of the subject lands. Council previously received this application for information in January. Staff are now respectfully bringing this report forward with a recommendation for approval. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is required to satisfy condition of the related consent application B1025AV, which was conditionally approved in June 2025 to permit the severance of a surplus farm dwelling. The subject lands are located east of West Quarter Town Line Road within the former township of Bedford. The property has 608 meters of frontage along West Quarter Town Line Road and a total area of approximately 40 hectares or 99 acres. The proposed severed lot is 0.52 hectares and contains one residential dwelling and an attached garage. The retained lands, which are 39.67 hectares, remain actively farmed and include an old silo. Surrounding land uses are primarily agricultural in all directions, and the property is privately serviced. The subject lands are designated agriculture and natural heritage system under the official plan and zoned agriculture and natural heritage under the zoning bylaw. The purpose of this application is to rezone the retained agricultural lands from agriculture to agricultural with a special exception, or A9. The A9 zoning will prohibit a dwelling unit as a permitted use on the retained parcel. This rezoning is a standard requirement associated with surplus farm dwelling severances and ensures that no new residential development can occur on the retained farmland. The proposed frontage of 76 meters for the severed lot minimizes the amount of agricultural land removed from production, while still allowing for safe access, grading, and drainage, and maintaining the rural character of the area. This zoning bylaw implements a condition of the related consent approval by prohibiting any future residential development on the retained agricultural lands. The proposal maintains consistency with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024 and conforms to the County of Brant Official Plan 2023. The amendment supports farm consolidation and the long-term protection of prime agricultural lands by removing future residential development potential from the retained parcel. The retained lands will remain in active agricultural use consistent with their designation and zoning intent. The proposal maintains compatibility with surrounding agricultural uses and minimizes the potential for land use conflicts. No concerns were identified through the circulation, and no public comments were received prior to this meeting. Notice of the application and of tonight's council meeting was provided by mail to surrounding property owners within 120 meters, and a public notice sign was posted on the property in accordance with the Planning Act. No outstanding technical or public concerns have been identified. So it is my professional planning opinion that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2225AB represents good planning, satisfies the condition of the related consent application, and appropriately protects the agricultural land base. Therefore, staff recommend that the application be approved for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. The applicant is here to speak to the application. Yep, do you want to speak to it? I don't have to. You don't have to? Okay. The applicant's here, the planner's here. Are there any questions? Are there people in the room that want to speak to or against this application? Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? I'll ask for the third and final time. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, I'll call this part of the meeting closed, and I'll bring it back to council. Can we get it on the floor, please? Councillor Bell and Councillor Howes. Councillor Chambers?
I just wanted to make a comment. I do support the application. It is consistent with our policy for permitting severances of surplus farm dwellings. It conforms to our official plan. It's consistent with provincial policies. And it also is consistent with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture policy as well as Christian Farmers policy. So it's a good policy, and it It's good because it helps young farmers like Jesse to continue farming, and it allows farm families like Lola May Farms to do what they do best, and that's farm. So I hope that the policy is in place for many, many years to come, and I fully support the policy and I fully support this application.
Any other questions, Councillor Bell?
Yeah, not specifically to the application here, but more generally, I thought we'd given the delegation, I thought we delegated this to staff to move from A to A9. So I'm a little surprised it's come here.
Jeremy?
Not that I'm aware of that we've delegated this down to staff at this point.
Well, I really would appreciate if we check this up, because this is from my time, and one of the members of the audience will remember, we shared the Committee of Adjustment for a while. At that point, we had so many of these applications that when I came onto council, I was anxious that we actually moved the approval authority away from council because it wasn't necessary. It could be a staff decision. And I thought we'd actually approved that in the last round of delegations to staff. But I'd appreciate if you could check for me, please.
Yeah, Councillor Chambers?
My recollection is that we did not delegate it to staff, but what we did do, we used to have two meetings, a meeting for public input and then a meeting for approval, and we said that there's no reason to have two meetings, so we just collapsed it into one. I think that's maybe what we did.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions to the application? Noting it's for approval. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. It takes us to 10.5, which is 73 West River Road, and Ryan has that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This presentation is related to applications ZBA 925RC and PS 125RC. Proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment for 73 West River Road from MHBC Planning on behalf of West River Developments, Inc.
Stop you there just for a minute, just to make sure that everyone knows this is a public meeting and it's now open. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The subject lands are located on West River Road with a frontage of approximately 192 meters, a depth of 125 meters, in an area of approximately 2.4 hectares or 5.9 acres. Subject lands are designated in the County of Brant's official plan as community corridor. The intent of that designation is to be located along arterial or collector roads, focusing on a variety of low, mid, and high-rise developments, including mixed uses, institutional, and office uses. It's located within the urban settlement area of Paris. A portion of the subject lands are also designated in the county's official plan as natural heritage system, and the intent of that designation is to identify and protect lands identified as environmentally significant, such as woodlands, watercourses, and hazard lands. Currently, the subject lands are zoned R1-58. That zoning provision allows for a lower density model of development on parcel servicing. The development proposal in front of us here is similar, but it has been modified to what this committee had seen previously in, I believe, July of 2025. It's a draft plan of subdivision proposing to establish a legal framework to permit a future creation of freehold lots within a common elements plan of condominium. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will allow for increased driveway width within parcels of tied land of a common elements condominium. Rear yard setbacks to the northerly lot line being established, as well as increased overall lot coverage within the future freehold townhouse parcels of tied land. Future applications related to this development would be a site plan control application and draft plan of condominium. This is not dissimilar to what we had dealt with another Pinevest project in October, was the Woodsley plan of subdivision. It's a very similar proposal in terms of the planning applications that are required. So again, as I stated, this application was before this committee in July of 2025. We've worked quite hard actually with the developer in the time since then to come to what we see in front of us today.
The proposal's been scaled down. I believe the original was for 71 two-story units, townhouse units. The applicants gone in a bit different direction here with a proposal for 46 bungalow townhouse units. You'll also notice, I think this is important to draw attention to, is the size of the parkland or the woodlot that's going to be conveyed to the county. This is a big win for us. We're going to be receiving that block for the county to maintain and include a passive park uses within that block. It's increased about 3 times for the size of what we saw originally in July at the info meeting from the original concept plan, I guess. So again, that will include, the subdivision itself will only include 1 large development block, which will be subject to a site plan control application. Of the park block, road widening as required. So in terms of steps here, this application is being recommended for approval, and I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thanks, Ryan. Who's here? Jennifer's coming up to speak? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Gaudet, and I'm an associate planner with MHBC, here together with Bob and Titus from Pinevest Homes. I won't repeat everything from Ryan's presentation. I know it's been a long day. Just pointing out that we are surrounded by the Grand River Estates subdivision. So this is the original proposal, which you may recall from the public meeting in July. As Ryan highlighted, in the past 8 months, we've met quite a bit with staff. So we've gone through everything from the proposal, primarily tree retention. So if I can highlight here, or my mouse will almost get it. This was the original proposed natural heritage area. And this is a rendered version of the plan for the new proposal. And you'll see all of this area here has now been proposed to be natural heritage, as well as a frontage block here, which will be fully planted and zoned natural heritage. And as Ryan mentioned, we have significantly reduced the density. So originally for the pre-application consultation, it was stacked townhouses, about 200. Working with staff, reduced that to the 71 two-story towns you saw in July, and now 46 bungalow townhouses. This is the draft plan, so the more formal version of the plan you just saw. I know the line work is a little bit harder to see, but you can see the 2 blocks here that are natural heritage. So this long sort of L-shaped one would be dedicated to the county. That's proposed. And then this one along the frontage would be owned by the future condominium corporation and would still be planted. It just wouldn't be dedicated to the county. Here are some conceptual elevations. I'm sure everyone in the room is familiar with Pinevest, but in case you aren't, here are some of their bungalow town products. And a second one here. So as I mentioned, the proposal has been revised, so the zoning bylaw has been tweaked accordingly. I won't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but if you have any questions about it, it is a bylaw that has some parts that reflect the whole development block and then some that speak to aspects of the future lots when they are subdivided through part lot control. And the draft plan is just to implement the part lot control applications. In conclusion, we support staff's recommendation. We're very grateful for staff for having worked with us through the past 8 months and going to numerous field visits in all weather and meeting with us to craft this bylaw over the last few weeks as well. We believe it is consistent with the PPS, conforms with the official plan, and represents good planning. And we're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Noting that the planner and the applicant are in the room, is there anyone in the room that has any questions to this application? Yeah, come on up. If you could just give us your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Hi, my name is Laura Ruska, and my address is 81 West River Road.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, and community members. My name is Laura Ruska, and I live at 81 West River Road. I'm a neighbor of 73 West River Road, as well as a representative of the property owners of 77 and 79 West River Road. We just have a few questions regarding the proposed development specifically pertaining to the natural heritage lands. Overall, we are pleased with the changes that have been made to the plan, especially the natural heritage designation. Our comments and questions are because of our concerns that the natural heritage lands would continue to be protected and would actually not be impacted by the developer or the future condominium corporation. We are concerned as to how will the county prevent indiscriminate cutting and removal of the existing trees and vegetation in the protected area? Will there be a registered easement on title over the proposed block, which defines the conditions that they will be subject to? For example, the preservation of the trees and vegetation, with the dominant tenement in the easement being someone other than the condominium, i.e., for example, the Ontario Heritage Trust. As well, does the developer intend to fence the perimeter around the natural heritage site? So we're just wondering about some of those things. With continued development of Bendemeer and West River Road, assurance that the natural heritage systems be protected and allowed to flourish needs to be a priority in order to allow wildlife to continue to thrive. Thank you very much.
The applicant's in the room. Can you speak to the lady's concerns?
Yes, thank you. This plan isn't up, but the majority of the lands are proposed to be conveyed to the county. But the draft plan conditions would require that all the plantings and compensation be dealt with before it's conveyed to the county. So I think that would address most of the protection concerns. And then with regards to fencing, we would go through the site plan process, but the expectation is where there's the interface of the residential lands and the natural heritage, with the exception of that frontage, that there would be a fence.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious why they can't register.
Yeah, you have to come up here so that people at home can hear you. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sepp Ruska. I'm just wondering why an easement can't be registered. There will be a reference plan done of that property. Why don't they just outline the National Heritage area and put register an easement on there so that nobody can go in there and touch those trees and the vegetation?
Want to come up and add?
It's quite easily done.
Yeah. You want to speak to that?
So as mentioned, the expectation is that the county would own those lands. There have been discussions, they aren't final, about potentially facilitating public access to those natural heritage zoned lands through a pathway from Bendemeer, but that hasn't been finalized yet. But it would be up to the county essentially to make sure, with the power of their bylaws, that no one's illegally taking any of the trees down.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? I'll ask for the second time. Is there anyone in the room who wants to speak to or against this application? And I'll ask for the third and final time. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, I'll call this part of the meeting closed. and turn it back over to council. I need it on the floor, please. Councillor Oakley, Councillor Bell. Any questions or concerns? Councillor Bell, you're first. Councillor Howe is your second.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As many of you know, I have an ideological objection to the fact that we have such massive variances from our existing zoning standards. So let me take maximum lot coverage. It says it's 60%. The R1 zoning calls for a maximum lot coverage of 40%. How do staff justify that 50% increase in lot coverage?
Ryan, do you want to try? There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. One of the difficulties in ensuring that this zoning bylaw accounts for this development in two forms in terms of ownership. In that regard, the development will take place through site plan control as one single block. And when we're accounting for the block that way, I don't think the lot coverage will exceed 60%. But then when we come to the point where we need to create the parcels of tied land or the individual lots, and this is not dissimilar to several applications that we've dealt with in the past on Cedar Street with Pinevest, the same, very similar product and a very similar end goal in terms of ownership and the lots, the way that they're laid out in the condominium. They do turn out to be smaller than a conventional lot because they're contained within the bounds of the condominium itself. So we just want to be sure that when the time comes to create those parcels of tied land for the condominium in the future, that lot coverage is accounted for that way. And so I understand certainly, Mr. Chair, the concern with respect to the number itself, but that number in particular is to account for, again, those smaller units that are created or severed, it's not the right term, but part lot control for the common elements condominium.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that. You'll have to explain that to me outside of this room. But my concern is that we have a standard and we move away from it the minute a developer wants to do it. And no disrespect to Bob, I love Pinevest. I'm on my third Pinevest home, so I'll openly declare that. But the issue is not with Bob, it's with ourselves, that we have a standard and then we're so readily willing to move away from it. I have a solution, so I'm not just going to say it's a problem. I think, and I was going to ask the question of Ryan, is this comparable to 59 Cedar and 23 Cedar?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. And again, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head for that one, but ownership, the type of development that we're dealing with, very similar, yes.
But broadly, the lot coverage would be the same?
In my estimation, yes, and that's sort of what I compare this to.
I believe these properties serve a great purpose. I think they fill the right niche in the market. So rather than having developers come back time and again asking for variances, why can we not create an R4 which deals with condominiums? Because my observation, having worked with the Brant Condominium Corporation Authority for a few years as the council representative, these are more and more prevalent. And there will be more and more of them. So I think we need to recognize them almost as a separate housing type and recognize the issue that Ryan is bringing forward there. So I do support this, but I think, each time we have to go through the pain of asking for a variance, when I think we ought to set the ground rules much better so that the variance is not required.
Councillor Howes and then Councillor Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, maybe to Jennifer, I guess, but it's not very often we see a developer come in with a reduced number, especially a significantly reduced number. So I first want, and I'm not complaining, first wanted to just kind of acknowledge that. And I wondered if you would take the opportunity to speak for a couple minutes on kind of what that journey was like from your side of the table to go from 71 to 46, because it's, like I say, it's not very often we see it go that way. Maybe a capitalism perspective from Bob, if you wouldn't mind, just because it is fairly rare, and if Bob would speak to that for a minute.
Good evening, Bob Stewart, Pinevest Homes, 1 Grand River Street North, Paris. Good question. Again, we've been, we became involved with the site when it was the 200 stack town. And I think there's no surprise that the market has changed quite substantially this last few years on that type of density, as well as just when Pinevest came on, we built very similar product than what you see today, along with getting into some more density on a few new sites. That said, it's a lot of back and forth with staff, and I really appreciate the work to date on it, and some of the previous comments we had at the public meeting, we took back and really worked to see what we could develop. And yeah, I mean, looking at it from a 71 town, 2-story, to now 46 bungalow town, you're definitely going to be going after, from our end, I think, more of a premium in terms of the purchase price in some of these, which we're still working through. But also, you know, the market basically, we think this product can move a lot faster as well than what we're seeing. And again, Pinevest, we're in an area, we're surrounded by a larger developer builder. We're trying to set ourselves a bit apart from that and trying to offer a product that's not readily available. Similar to what you've seen, what we've done on Cedar Street, it's kept really strong values and seems to turn over quickly when they do become available. So we think there's still a strong market, and that was a big part of our decision to make the change to the bungalow towns, and it should be a good fit, and some of the product, as you already know. So that's, yeah, the rambling version of it all.
Thanks, Bob.
Appreciate the question.
Thank you. Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a few comments on it. To address some of the comments that were made this evening from members of the public, I think as the developers has stated, these lands will be transferred over to the county, and I think that will, I have a lot of confidence in our now dedicated forestry staff. I think Trent Myers does a fantastic job with him and his crew, and we have a stated priority to improve the canopy coverage in the county, so I think we'll do a great job maintaining those lands. In terms of ideological stance, as Councillor Bell put it, I see things a little bit differently in regards to, I recognize, and I would agree ideologically with Councillor Bell that, you know, when we have standards, we should keep to those standards. However, I do also recognize, and I would highlight that we have a new official plan, which is not being successfully implemented by our old zoning bylaw, and thus there's going to be some tension between those two things naturally in order to successfully implement an official plan, whilst we still work on developing our new zoning bylaw platform via the community planning permit system. And then further, I just wanted to highlight as well that I think it makes sense to approve this development, and I plan to support it on the basis of a similar argument that I made earlier this evening in regards to the Stubbies development. It's in our official plan. I think we should be looking to implement said official plan, and I would wish the province would give us more tools and freedom when we're developing those official plans to add and change and remove lands. But as it is, we should be implementing what we've put forward in that overarching plan. So I plan to support this.
Any other comments, concerns? No? Okay, it's in front of us. It's for approval. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, takes us to 10.6. Okay, whenever you're ready. So this is for, the official plan, okay. This is a public meeting, I call it open, and you can begin whenever you like.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll be presenting phase 1 of the county-initiated official plan amendment, which focuses on introducing alternative public engagement measures. So to just give a bit of background on this project, in June 2025, Council endorsed the thematic directions for this OPA, including the development of alternative engagement measures. Then in November 11 of last year, staff brought forward the first draft of the OPA, which proposed updates to several sections of the official plan. From that broader package, the only policies being recommended for approval at this time are those related to alternative engagement measures. I just want to highlight that these policies have been structured in a way so that they can operate independently from a potential future community planning permit system. So what do we mean by alternative measures? Under the Planning Act, municipalities can use alternative methods to inform and gather feedback from the public with respect to official plan amendments, zoning bylaw amendments, plans of subdivision, and consents. To use these provisions, the official plan must clearly identify what the alternative measures are and when they apply. When these measures are in place, applications don't need to follow the typical Planning Act notice and public meeting requirements. So some of the key benefits of using alternative measures under the Planning Act is that having engagement tools that are better tailored to the needs of the community helps support the county's strategic priority for building engaged communities and making sure that people are informed earlier in the process in a ways that are more transparent and accessible. Alternative measures also help us match the level of engagement to the scale and complexity of the development application. Instead of using the same standardized approach for everything, we can adjust our methods based on how significant the application is and how much it might impact the community. This creates a clearer, more consistent framework for public engagement, one that it's easier to understand and more responsive overall. And finally, it also allows the county to use its resources more efficiently. To enable the use of alternative measures, we're proposing new policies in Part 6, Section 2.2 of the official plan. And the updates focus on three main areas. First is application classifications and delegated authority. The second is application process timelines. And third is mail notification requirements. So as part of this OPA, it is proposed to establish a classification system that identifies applications as minor, intermediate, or major. This classification is based on factors such as the application's type, complexity, scale, alignment with provincial and local policies, and the level of community impact. Applications that are subject to alternative measures are shown in red with an asterisk. You may notice that the names of these classes are different from those in the CPPS framework, and that is because this framework covers the full range of planning acts, whereas the CPPS only includes minor variances, zoning bylaw amendments, and site plan controls. The goal of this classification system is to streamline the approval process for minor and intermediate applications that typically don't generate much public interest by delegating them to staff. And this led us to direct enhanced engagement efforts toward larger, more complex, or potentially controversial applications, with council remaining the approval authority for those types of applications. There are, however, two situations where a minor or intermediate application can be brought to council for a decision as part of this proposed OPA. The first one is when the applicant of a minor or intermediate application, excluding site plan controls, refers the application to council for a final decision, and the exclusion of site plan controls is because of the requirements under the Planning Act. And the second one is when council members believe that an application is deemed as contested and warrants further public input. In that case, a council member can submit a written request to staff to bump up the application for council's consideration. As part of this new framework, staff will provide council with regular summaries of all minor and intermediate applications so that there's ongoing oversight in what's being processed and to help identify when an application may need to be bumped up. To implement the aforementioned new policies, we need to update the county's delegation of authority bylaw. And as part of this OPA, we're proposing changes to the list of minor bylaws under Section 39.2 of the Planning Act. The list would include removal of holding provision, removal of site-specific zoning that's more restrictive than the parent zone, temporary use bylaw extensions for up to 3 years, minor bylaws to address zoning deficiencies as a result of a consent application, and housekeeping updates and technical revisions to the zoning. In the future, standard consents listed on this slide could also be delegated to staff. However, right now, we're only moving ahead with the minor bylaw updates because the approval authority for consents currently lies with the Committee of Adjustment, and changing that would require amending Bylaw 1699, which established a Committee of Adjustment for the county. Staff are recommending that this shift happen as part of the transition to the CPPS instead, so both minor variances and consents can be delegated to staff at the same time, and Bylaw 1699 can be repealed entirely. Another part of the alternative measures involves adjusting application process timelines. So one of the proposed changes is to reduce the timeline for deeming an application complete from 30 days down to 15 days when there are no supporting studies. We're also proposing that a notice of complete application be issued within 7 days of deeming it complete, which gives the public more time to review and provide comment. For decisions, we're proposing to shorten timelines by 30 days for both intermediate and major applications. That means decisions would be targeted within 60 days for intermediate ones and 90 days for major applications, instead of the current 90 and 120 days required by the Planning Act. This helps move the county gradually toward the required 45-day decision timeline that would apply to all applications under the CPPS. Finally, we're looking to issue notices of decision within 5 business days rather than 15 to help move applications into the appeal period and toward final approval more quickly. I would also like to note that these shortened timelines are just targets as of now, not legislative requirements. And because of that, they can't be appealed if they're not met. And all statutory appeal deadlines under the Planning Act would still apply. The final set of changes is related to mail notification requirements. And as part of that, we will have website notices and on-site signage as baseline notification tools for all applications, except for site plan controls and part lot controls. We're proposing to add newspaper notices as a requirement specifically for plans of subdivision. And we're also recommending expanding the circulation radius for mailed notices. As you can see on this slide, for minor applications, properties within 60 meters of the subject lands would continue to receive mailed notice. For intermediate applications, notices would be sent to properties within 180 meters. And for major applications, the radius would increase to 240 meters. For gravel pit proposals specifically, the circulation area would extend to 500 meters instead of the 120 meters required as of now, to better reflect their broader impacts on the surrounding area and to capture more properties. Overall, these increased distances help align the level of notification with the complexity of the application and the land use context. To understand how these expanded distances would actually affect the number of notices we send out and the associated costs, we looked at 3 county-owned properties in 3 different land use contexts: urban, rural settlement areas, and prime agricultural areas. We applied both the existing and proposed distances to see how many properties would fall within each of these radius. The findings are provided in more detail in the staff report, but generally the analysis showed that in urban areas and rural settlement areas, the number of properties captured increases proportionally as the radius expands, and these locations would see the biggest increase in notice volumes and therefore the biggest increase in costs, especially in urban areas where density is higher. In prime agricultural areas, however, the increase is more incremental in nature. Larger lot sizes and lower density mean that expanding the radius only adds a few additional properties, which results in a minimal cost increase. Overall, expanding circulation distances supports more proactive outreach and gives more residents access to timely information. It also helps ensure that county resources are directed where they can most effectively improve transparency and encourage early engagement. Introducing alternative measures gives the county a valuable opportunity to create planning approval processes that are more transparent, consistent, and efficient. It also helps ensure that engagement is better tailored to the unique needs of each application, rather than relying on a one-size-fits-all approach. These new policies also act as a trial run, allowing us to test and refine our process and to monitor any operational or budgetary impacts along the way. And all of this will help us with a smoother transition to the CPPS in future, should this system be adopted by council. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. That's a lot. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Yep, come on up. If you could just give us your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Mary Jane Brown, 561 Jerma School Road, Paris. I just had a question. One of the examples listed was the inadvertent merging for technical reasons of parcels of land. How far back are you considering that to be basically a straightforward application? Because my understanding of that application is if parcels have merged inadvertently, and it was one parcel, then it was sold, and it's a new owner, the new owner would not be able to use that application. So how far back are you considering that?
So just to clarify, those specific delegation of authorities are not being presented for a recommendation as of now. That will happen once we move through the CPPS. But in terms of considering it as a standard consent and delegating it to staff, we will be looking at official plan policies and conformity with the official plan and zoning bylaw to determine whether that's a scoped and minor application or it needs additional studies, reports, and if that's the case, there's an opportunity for that application to be bumped up for council's consideration.
Thank you. And then just one other question in general. Has it been researched with other municipalities that have adopted this system and what their results have been?
Through the mayor, there hasn't been so much uptake of alternative measures. There have been most related to notice requirements, extending the circulation radius, and City of London, River that have used the similar approach. But we can definitely look more into that to see if there are additional information that we can use from other municipalities.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anyone else in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? I'll ask for a second time. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? And I'll ask for the third and final time. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, we'll call this part of the meeting closed and we'll go back to council. Can I get it on the floor, please? Lucas and Councillor Howes. Councillor Chambers?
Just with regard to the delegated authority bump ups, I just want to make sure I understand that correctly. It's proposed that applicants can request the application be bumped up to council for decision on situations what could normally be delegated authority. But if the applicant wants to, if he's gotten a scrap with the staff, he can take it to council. Is that what that means?
Sorry, could you please repeat your question? I didn't quite understand.
Sorry, I don't phrase my questions that good. The bump up request for the applicant or owner. You're suggesting that an applicant of a minor or intermediate application, not site plan controls, can refer the application to council for decision, and that would normally be delegated authority unless they ask for it to be decided by council.
Yes, that's correct.
And would there be a criteria for an applicant to meet before he could ask it to be referred to council for decision? Or is it just, I don't like what staff's doing, I want council to do it?
Through the mayor, we can definitely work with applicants and try to resolve any concerns as much as possible without a need for bringing like minor applications to council. But this provision specifically is in alignment with what happens in the CPPS. So an applicant can bring any such application to council, and that's basically to enable that opportunity for applicants to do that if they want to.
And that's not unlike conservation authorities that if an application or a permit is refused, they can request that the board adjudicate. The other part of that is with a written request, council members can bring any minor or intermediate application to council for decision. Does that mean that I, as a councillor, individually can make that request? Or do I, as an individual, make the request to council and council decides to bump it up?
Through the mayor to councillor, I think based on the way it's written as of now, is that if a council member submits that written request to staff, there's an opportunity for that application to be bumped up to council.
And I can tell you that that used to be in place for site plan applications. A council member could ask for a bump up. And that caused some concerns that individual councilors can request things, and it can be cumbersome, and depending on the individual councilor, it can be problematic in some cases, as it was prior. I would much prefer that council members request council to bump it up, and council makes the decision whether to bump it up or not. And then the majority of councilors make the decision rather than one individual councilor. And I just throw that out for comments, because I can see that if individual councillors can ask for bump ups, then it could be a lot of bump ups depending on individual councillors. But if it's a majority decision to bump up, that moderates that. I throw that out for consideration.
Absolutely, we can tweak the wording so that it's a bit clearer on that point.
It's even uncomfortable to say bump up. It seems uncomfortable. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually on the next paragraph down from Councillor Chambers on contested applications. And you say that staff will circulate a regular summary of minor and intermediate applications. When do you see that starting, and what form will it take? Will it be a Friday file kind of notification? And I assume that we will be notified before the decision is taken.
Through the...
And I'm grinning here because there's one issue I'm going to bring up later in other business, which I would fall into this category, I think. And just before I just finish, minor variance in the intermediate applications. So minor variance, typically they're dealt with by committee of adjustment. Are you now suggesting that we can bring issues that might have gone to committee of adjustment into council? And you can take those questions in whichever order you want.
Through the mayor to councillor. So with respect to the first question, it depends on the timing of those applications, but we assume that there will be at least a monthly summary of all applications, minor and intermediate applications. And in terms of the format, it depends on the preference of council, whether they would like to receive it as an email or a Friday file. Staff are happy to do whatever works the best for council. And with respect to the second question, as of now, the delegation of authority bylaw, the amendments that we're proposing is only with respect to minor bylaws, minor zoning bylaws, not consents or minor variances, and that would be something that will be dealt with as part of the transition to CPPS. Because as of now, Committee of Adjustment has the authority to make decision on those applications.
Thank you for that. I'm struggling then because it says the proposed framework will cover the full range of planning applications. And then we got in the intermediate applications minor variance. So maybe I'm misinterpreting it.
Through mayor to councillor. So the reason is that we're bringing everything all together through this amendment is because that we don't have to come back with another OPA to include additional policies that enable delegation of authority in the future. That's why there are those policies in there, but we understand that there would be need for additional amendments to delegation of authority to actually implement some of those policies.
As it's written, I love it. You know, that's exactly what I want. I'm thinking about the big building at the end of Oak Park Road that suddenly gained 6 meters in height. After we, as council, had approved the development, suddenly Committee of Adjustment comes along and adds 6 meters of height to it, which I think is inappropriate and not the right use of the Committee of Adjustment. So as it's written, I love it. If you're telling me it's written wrongly, I don't love it.
Just to clarify, so the way it's written is going into the OP to set this framework and the structure for now, because we're making all the amendments at once. However, as Nagin has noted, consents and minor variances are still governed by another procedural bylaw delegated to Committee of Adjustment. We're not looking to change that at this point of time. So the bigger structure is being implemented in the official plan, but we're leaving that element alone because we're going to address that hopefully in a few months with the CPPS. So rather than trying to make a change, sudden change now when we're not ready and then make another change in a few months, doesn't make good sense. So we're going to implement this in a few months, the change when we go into towards if council approves the CPPS, we will then look at that change to remove those items and amend the appropriate procedural bylaw for Committee of Adjustment.
Get there in the end, okay.
Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to bounce back to Councillor Chambers' comments, and I want to say I wholeheartedly agree. I think as written as a premise, individual councillors being able to bring things forward sounds like a good idea, presuming everybody's a good faith actor, which I think around this council table we are, but that's something we can't assume with the tool going into the future. We can only need to look south at our neighbors to see what one bad actor can do. And throw convention on its head. So I think it's a much better idea that we have that safeguard in place with requiring it to be asking permission of council to be able to bump things up. So, thank you.
I think that's what you said, Robert. Any other comments? Any other comments or concerns? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Chambers.
Just ask staff at some point in the future to clarify that bump up thing so we all know what we're doing.
Definitely, staff will look into it. We know where you're wanting to go and completely understand, so we'll get back to you with a revision to how that's going to work.
Okay, we're gonna need permission to go past 10 o'clock. Councillor Bell, Councillor Kyle, all those in favor? Carried. It's not quite time, but now we don't have to worry about it. It takes us to number 11 on the agenda, which is committee reports. We don't have any staff reports. 12.1, Adam. Where's Adam? Oh, there he is. Adam. Thanks for hanging around.
My pleasure.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Certainly. Very quickly, through your worship, before you tonight is a short report looking for authorization to submit delegation requests to the 2026 OGRE conference. The one that we've identified is meeting with the Ministry of Energy and Mines to get a further update on the consultation process that's going on for the third intake of the Community Natural Gas Expansion Program. It's something that we discussed back in the summer. Council had directed staff to continue some advocacy work on that, so we feel it's a good fit for this conference. Subject to any other issues that council sees fit. This is the one we're recommending. Briefly in the report, I kind of identify we're going to be looking to bring more of a broader issues list to May Policy Development Committee and try to set the stage for AMO and then at the very least Roma, if not OGRA in early 2027 as well, and look to kind of create a little bit more of a cycle and structuralize our government relations and advocacy work. So subject to that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Are there any questions to Adam about the delegations or the requests? No? Okay, Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I won't litigate this too much because I believe we've had plenty of discussion on this topic in the past, but I just want to say I think the report's great, but I won't be supporting the recommendation as I don't think it's fiscally, socially, or environmentally responsible for us to advocate for expanding natural gas. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Howes? You're going to move it? Second at Coleman. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? There you go, Adam. There's your clear direction.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Good night. 13 on the agenda is communications. We have none. We have no resolutions. Other business. We do have other business. What is the other business? Councillor Kyle had other business. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is super quick. So this morning we had a meeting with the Agricultural Advisory, and they wished to have us at the next council meeting, which is tonight, pass along their thanks to the Roads Department for their exceptional work throughout all of the snow and the winter we've had thus far. So I just wanted to officially extend their thanks to the team.
Yeah, it's great. Who else had other business? Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My business is a planning-related matter. I was advised by one of my residents that at 77 Tom Brown Drive, Lausanne have requested a reduction in parking from 24 parking spaces to 18 parking spaces to accommodate a development of 12 one-bedroom units. Parking is a trigger issue. I went back and I looked at this is Block 98, for those that remember Block 98 on Rest Acres Road. I went back and I reviewed the meeting that we had, and I raised the concern about parking. It led to another parking study that Brandon went through. If Councillor Pearce was here, he'd be saying much the same thing. Mayor, to quote you, our parking is ridiculous. That's what you said at on that meeting. And here we have a situation where we're taking away parking spaces in an area where we've got a real parking problem. So fundamentally, I don't like that, but I feel like I've been caught off guard. And this comes back a little bit to my question about when do you notify council about things that are happening? And this is a good example that's happening right now, where I would have liked to have heard about it from staff, and I heard about it from a resident. And it makes us look like we don't know quite what's going on. So there's a communication element to it, but there's also the issue, fundamental issue, of parking. When I spoken to Alicia, she told me that Lausanne are shifting the basis of their development, and they're bringing in 12 one-bedroomed apartments. And it again goes back to what do we approve as council? Because when that development came to council back in 2023, November, that's not what we approved. And again, I don't doubt that they're trying to optimize it, and it might actually be to our community benefit, but I think we need to know what's happening. So if things are changing, I make my appeal to staff to let us know ahead of time so we can actually work positively to support the messaging and not be caught out and be on the back foot trying to defend something we don't actually know about. So I'll leave that with Jeremy and Alicia.
Did anyone else have anything under other business? No? Okay. We're not going in camera. We're going to go right to bylaws, and Councillor House has those.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Oakley that bylaws number 11-26 to 18-26 be read a first time.
All those in favor of the first reading? Second reading, please, Councillor House.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Oakley that bylaws number 11-26 to 18-26 be read a second time and all preambles and clauses be adopted.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the second reading of the bylaws? Seeing none, all those in favor of the second reading? And if you could do it one more time, please, Councillor House.
That bylaws, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Oakley that bylaws number 11-26 to 18-26 be read a third time, passed, signed, and executed.
All those in favor of the third and final reading of the bylaws? Opposed? Carried. Which takes us to number 18 on the agenda, which is our next meeting, which is Tuesday, February the 24th at 6 o'clock, and a motion to adjourn.